Chapter 25-27. When Luli entered the Goldwater region, people were searching for him everywhere. The four forces had mobilized many people to track down Luli. The Hall of Watercloud, in particular, had sent out many scouts to search for him. Under the investigation of many scouts, the relationship between Luli and the Hua family soon caught the attention of the four forces. They mobilized many forces as well, including spies in the Hua family for information. Luckily, Tian Yazi had made arrangements. The Hua family told the public that Luli had left the Hua family and his whereabouts were unknown. This information was sent out by spies in the Hua family. Even though the four forces had some doubts, nobody dared to start a war without solid evidence. It was not worthwhile to start a war with a super race over such a trivial matter. Lu Ling and the others went back to the Dragon Rebel Valley. The first few levels of the Land of Treasures did not yield much. Lu Ling and the others were not powerful enough to go to the deeper levels. Therefore, the young disciples of the four forces were sent out. The older ones went on to explore the deeper levels. The nameless demon emperor said, as well, that this was a land of treasures refined by a saint emperor. There were many Tao patterns and treasures left by the saint emperor. If they were lucky enough, they could find some great opportunities and have a chance to soar into the sky. Half a year later, a piece of news came out from the Land of Treasures, which shocked the four forces. A Lord-level warrior of the Dragon Rebel clan found a sacred steel in there, which attracted the warriors of the other three clans. The warrior of the Dragon Rebel clan was attacked by the three great warriors together, but he was unwilling to hand over the sacred steel. In the end, the powerful warrior of the Dragon Rebel race was killed by the three. But before he died, he smashed the holy tablet. The other powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race were enraged. They fought against the warriors of the three forces. Eventually, most of them died. Only 5 escaped. When the news came out, the most powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race flew into a rage. They turned out in full strength and went to the Yuting Mountain. Then, they attacked the powerful warriors of the 3 alien races guarding the Yuting Mountain. The experts of the 3 clans guarding Mount Yuting were not many. Since all the experts of the Dragon Rebel clan had come out, the experts of the 3 clans were caught unprepared. Over 100 of them were killed by the Dragon Rebel clan, and the rest had to flee in a hurry. Infuriated, the Dragon Rebel tribe massacred thousands of people of the 3 clans. Their warriors killed more than 100 people. The news spread quickly and caused a great disturbance. Was the Dragon Rebel clan going to fight against the 3 forces by itself? When the small and medium-sized forces in the vicinity received the news, they all trembled in fear. If the 4 great forces were to fight to the death, how large would the scope of the impact be? Once the 3 forces joined hands, would the Dragon Rebel clan and the forces affiliated to the Dragon Rebel clan be wiped out? The Dragon Rebel clan had occupied Yutingshan, but they weren't in a hurry to retreat. Instead, they gathered divine rune masters and started to practice divine runes here. It seemed they were going to take Yutingshan for themselves. At the same time, the Dragon Rebel clan had mobilized countless experts of their vassal forces to guard the Yuting Mountain. Apparently, they were ready to fight a life-and-death battle with the 3 forces there. The Yuting Mountain was very important, and there were many treasures in it. There were many relics of Saint Emperors. How could the 3 factions give up on such an important place? The patriarchs and leaders of the 3 great forces immediately gathered together and quickly formed an alliance and came to an agreement. They were going to cripple or injure the Dragon Rebel clan with the strength of the 3 forces. If possible, they would wipe out the Dragon Rebel clan and take over the Dragon Rebel Valley. The Dragon Rebel clan was one of the 10 holy clans in the ancient times. For millions of years, the Dragon Rebel Valley had been the headquarters of the Dragon Rebel clan. How many treasures, divine materials, and wealth were stored in the Dragon Rebel Valley? It was impossible to estimate. If they could wipe out the Dragon Rebel clan this time, the harvest would be enough to elevate the 3 forces to a higher level. How could they miss such a good opportunity? As soon as the alliance of the 3 forces was established, the hundreds of territories in the vicinity immediately felt like a storm was brewing. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. The three forces wouldn't start the war in a hurry. They would settle the war in one fell swoop after making a good plan. Countless experts began to gather in secret. Countless troops were gathering at Utingshan. At the same time, the Dragon Rebel clan was also mobilizing their troops. It was obvious that they were going to fight the three forces at Utingshan. When the news spread, the entire Flying Fire continent was shocked. The Dragon Rebel clan was strong, but they didn't have an Emperor-level expert. They did have a few Emperor-level experts, but how could they fight against two Emperor-level experts from the Lin family and the Fan family? The Dragon Rebel clan's comprehensive strength was stronger than the three forces. The problem was that they didn't have the ability to fight against the three forces on their own. If so, why was the Dragon Rebel clan still guarding Utingshan? Could it be that he was tired of living and wanted to court death? Anyway, all the forces on the Flying Fire continent were attracted here. This war would affect the future of the Flying Fire continent. Many forces wanted to share. If the Dragon Rebel clan was going to be wiped out, many forces wouldn't mind adding fuel to the fire and looting the Dragon Rebel clan's wealth. Countless scouts swarmed toward Utingshan. Many of them stayed outside the Dragon Rebel Valley, observing the Dragon Rebel clan's every move. Everyone in the Dragon Rebel Valley was in a panic because the Dragon Rebel clan had started to relocate their young elite disciples. Some of the children had been moved to the secret realm. Since the Dragon Rebel clan had started a plan for a way out, it meant that their leaders were not sure they could win this war, and they were determined to fight to the death. The Dragon Rebel clan wouldn't be so worried if they were fighting against two forces on their own. But now, they had to fight against three forces. For many average members of the Dragon Rebel clan, this was a foolish decision. The thing was, the clan leader had made up his mind and nobody could change it. They had to obey. There must be something behind this. When Tian Yazi received the news, he wanted to tell Lu Li. After all, she was a member of the Dragon Rebel clan. But on second thoughts, Tian Yazi decided not to disturb Lu Li. Tian Yazi believed that the clan leader of the Dragon Rebel clan was not an idiot. Even if he was the only one, the other leaders of the Dragon Rebel clan were not. They knew they could not win, but they still wanted to fight to the death. This was strange to begin with. The Dragon Rebel clan had survived for millions of years. If the clan leader and the leaders were all idiots, the Dragon Rebel clan would have been wiped out a long time ago. Therefore, Tian Yazi decided to wait and see. Many scouts of the Hua family were sent out to gather information. As a matter of fact, Tian Yazi was not the only one. Many other forces, including the three forces, suspected that the Dragon Rebel clan had something else to rely on. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so crazy. Saint Emperor's Land of Treasure was important, but it was insignificant compared to the survival of the race. The Dragon Rebel clan would not put themselves in such danger just for a land of treasure. Time passed by quickly. The three forces mobilized more powerful warriors and armies. 3 months later, there were 5 million warriors gathered outside the Yuting Mountain. The weakest among them was at the peak of the Third Tribulation. Almost all the powerful warriors of the three forces' affiliated forces were here. Gates were open one after another at the Yuting Mountain. Almost 1 million warriors and powerful warriors were mobilized. Most of the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan were here. Over at the Dragon Rebel Valley, powerful formations of divine patterns were activated. The three forces turned to the Yuting Mountain. The divine patterns of the Dragon Rebel Valley were too strong. It would be difficult to breach it in a short time. Also, if the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan were not killed, breaching the Dragon Rebel Valley would be pointless. If the three forces attacked the Dragon Rebel Valley, the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan could attack the base camp of the three forces. Therefore, the most important thing was to kill the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel clan. Chapter 25-28. The war broke out in the end without any surprises. The strong warriors of the three forces were conservative. They didn't send all of them. They only sent some of their strong warriors to press forward with the army. They didn't attack from all directions at the same time, but from one direction. The strong warriors of the three forces were holding the rear. It was said that the strong warriors of the Lin family and the Fan family were both on the move, but they didn't show up. They were ready to attack at the critical moment. Tens of thousands of scouts were wandering around. Their every move would be monitored. It was impossible for a hidden army to launch a surprise attack. Even if a strong force opened the space gate, how many people could come through the space gate at once? No more than 100 people. Therefore, the three forces weren't afraid of a surprise attack from strong force. Besides, so what if it was a surprise attack? Unless the Dragon Rebel clan could invite two super forces, the three forces wouldn't be afraid at all. Recently, the intelligence hall of the three forces had been active. All the forces on the Flying Fire continent had been monitoring them, but they didn't find anything unusual. The army pressed forward slowly. Soon, the war broke out. Both sides mobilized a large number of troops to fight fiercely at the foot of Yuting Mountain. Facing such a large-scale war, all schemes and tricks were meaningless. Even if you deployed some hidden divine glyphs or used some miraculous divine weapons, how many people could you kill? Neither side sent out strong warriors. It was just the sergeants fighting fiercely. Hundreds of thousands of sergeants fought fiercely at the foot of Yuting Mountain. Soon, the foot of Yuting Mountain was flooded with blood. The casualties were great. 3 days. After 3 days of bloody fighting, the casualties at the foot of Yuting Mountain were more than 500,000. The number of casualties on both sides was about the same. Both sides had lost some experts of the Fifth Tribulation, but none of the lords had joined the battle. Both sides knew that this was just the appetizer. The real battle would be the bloody battle between the overlords. Once too many experts died, the battle would be over. The strong warriors of the three forces still hadn't joined the battle. They felt something was wrong, but they couldn't figure out what it was. The Dragon Rebel clan weren't idiots. They wouldn't die for nothing. So what was the problem? Since they couldn't figure it out, they didn't dare to act rashly. They had to keep pushing forward with their sergeants. The three forces had over 5 million soldiers, while the Dragon Rebel clan only had over 1 million. The leaders of the three forces were curious to see if the Dragon Rebel clan could still keep their trump cards hidden after the army of more than 1 million was exhausted. As long as he revealed his trump card, it would be easy to deal with him. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Before figuring out the Dragon Rebel clan's backer, the experts of the three forces wouldn't dare to act recklessly. On the 4th day, the three factions mobilized 500,000 soldiers and sent out a few hundred Fifth Tribulation experts to begin a large-scale frontal attack. This time, the three factions gave the order to attack Mount Yuting. The bloody battle started, and it was even fiercer this time. The Dragon Rebel clan still hadn't sent out any Lord-level experts, but they did send out many experts who had undergone the Fifth Tribulation. It was the first time that the Dragon Rebel clan had sent out experts who had undergone the Fifth Tribulation. Even so, the Dragon Rebel clan was losing ground again and again. The attacks were too strong for them to hold on. Unless they mobilized a Lord-class expert, they wouldn't be able to suppress it. Yuting Mountain had deployed some divine glyphs and inhibitions. With the help of these divine glyphs and inhibitions, the Dragon Rebel clan's combat prowess soared. After the armies of the three forces broke into Yuting Mountain, they suffered heavy casualties. The three forces couldn't sit still anymore. They started to mobilize their Lord-level experts tentatively. Otherwise, ordinary soldiers wouldn't be able to hold on. As soon as the Lord-level experts took action, the inhibitions became useless. Many divine glyphs and inhibitions were broken easily. The armies of the three forces continued to break into Yuting Mountain with irresistible force. The ordinary soldiers of the Dragon Rebel clan started to retreat. Countless soldiers entered the peerless treasure land refined by the Saint Emperor through the entrance. There had been flames at the entrance. Now that the Dragon Rebel clan had blown it up, it was easier for them to go in and out. The armies flew in batch by batch. The experts of the Dragon Rebel clan were guarding outside. The armies of the three forces didn't dare to chase after them. They had to report the situation to their superiors. What's going on? The patriarchs and experts of the three forces gathered together, not understanding what was going on. Why did the Dragon Rebel clan mobilize their armies into the treasure land? Were they going to send all of them in? If the three forces sealed the entrance, the Dragon Rebel clan would never be able to get out, wouldn't they? Everyone was confused. The leaders of the three forces had to mobilize their armies to surround the entrance so that the Dragon Rebel clan couldn't escape. If they wanted to escape, they would have to break through the layers of encirclement. By then, the situation would be favorable to the three forces. What is the Dragon Rebel clan doing? Not only the three forces, but also countless scouts. The other forces of the Flying Fire Continent had sent scouts as well. None of them understood what was going on. The Dragon Rebel clan felt they were digging their own graves. Were they going to trap themselves in the peerless treasure land? Half a day later, all the soldiers of the Dragon Rebel clan had entered. Then the experts of the Dragon Rebel clan started to enter as well. In the end, under the gaze of the experts of the three forces, all the experts of the Dragon Rebel clan entered the peerless treasure land. It was empty outside. Not a single soul could be seen. What's going on? The experts of the three great powers couldn't understand what was going on. All of them rose into the air and flew towards the entrance. No matter how they were going to deal with it, the experts of the three forces were going to seal the entrance first. In this way, they would at least have the initiative. By then, they would be able to attack or defend, advance or retreat. They could wipe out the Dragon Rebel clan bit by bit easily. Buzzing, right at that moment, a sudden change took place. The entrance suddenly glowed. Then a dreadful suction force came from the entrance. It was so powerful that even the Lord Realm experts couldn't react in time. They were sucked in right away. The three forces had almost 100 Lord Realm experts in total. Right now, 60 of them were near the entrance. More than half of them had been sucked in. Hundreds of experts of the Five Disasters realm couldn't stand it either. They were sucked in right away. What's going on? It's a trap. They built a super powerful divine glyph rites at the entrance. Many people were shocked. Those nearby retreated right away. The two great emperors of the Lin family and the Fan family showed up like ghosts. The rest of the warriors went to surround the two great emperors. The sudden change caught many people off guard. They didn't know what to do. We've been tricked. The great emperor of the Lin family thought for a while and said, the Dragon Rebel clan has made arrangements. There must be secret reinforcements in the Supreme Treasure Land. Not only powerful reinforcements, but also powerful divine glyph rites. They didn't dig their own graves. They dug one for us and forced us to jump in. 40 to 50 Lord Realm experts and hundreds of experts of the Five Disasters realm had been sucked in. Unless they didn't care about the lives of those hundreds of people, they would have to follow them in, wave after wave. The Dragon Rebel clan had been prepared. They had to jump in even though they knew it was a trap. Needless to say, they were at a disadvantage in this battle. The three forces might lose the battle. What are you afraid of? We have great Emperor Lin Yun and immortal Emperor Fan on our side. The Dragon Rebel clan has no great emperors. We will win this battle no matter what. Charge in and destroy the Dragon Rebel clan. Don't wait anymore. All of us will die if we wait any longer. Many people nearby started to yell. With every passing second, the people inside would be in more danger. If they waited for a few hours, all of them would die. Let's go. Chapter 25-29. As soon as the two great emperors entered, most of the other experts followed them. Only a small number of experts stayed outside to guard, and the soldiers kept coming in. The situation was under the control of the Dragon Rebel tribe. They had to follow the Dragon Rebel tribe's rhythm. They had to fight to the death with them. Otherwise, the three forces couldn't afford the loss of dozens of lords who were sucked in and killed. Maybe the three forces would be reduced to second-rate forces after this war and go from prosperity to decline. Millions of soldiers kept going in. In fact, there were scouts from different forces hiding in the army. The situation here was transmitted to the Flying Fire Continent by the scouts through special channels. One day later, more than half of the millions of soldiers had gone in, and the news was spread. The entire Flying Fire Continent was in an uproar. Some experts even opened the space gates and came nearby. No one knew what the Dragon Rebel tribe had set up in the Treasure Land, and no one knew how the war would end. But everyone had a bad feeling. Maybe the three forces would be severely injured after this war. Of course, the Dragon Rebel tribe might be severely injured and wiped out in the end. Whether the Dragon Rebel tribe or the three forces were defeated, it would be a very important thing for the Flying Fire continent. Many forces were preparing in secret. They wanted to see if they could loot the treasures, powerful divine skills, and strange treasures that the Dragon Rebel tribe or the three forces had accumulated for many years. 3 days. The experts and armies of the three major forces had been in the Supreme Treasure Land for 3 days, but there was no news from them. More and more experts from the major forces gathered in the vicinity of Yuting Mountain. Even the patriarchs of some major forces had come over personally. However, none of them dared to enter the Treasure Land. They could only wait for the war to end and one side to lose before deciding what to do next. No one dared to act rashly before figuring out the situation. After another 2 days, the entrance suddenly shone brightly. Then a figure flew out. The experts guarding outside glanced over, and their expressions changed dramatically. Their eyes were full of disbelief. It was a man in a white robe. He looked like a middle-aged man, but his face was pale and his eyes were full of shock. But that was not the point. The point was that one of his arms had been chopped off from the shoulder. "Immortal Emperor Fan," an expert exclaimed with trembling lips. This white-robed, middle-aged man was the Grand Emperor of the Fan clan, Immortal Emperor Fan. A great emperor's arm had been chopped off, and from the looks of it, he had escaped in terror. How could everyone not be shocked? There was no saint emperor in this world, and the great emperor was the strongest. Although great emperors were divided into strong and weak ones, and Sunlight Emperor was able to kill Purple Emperor in the past, great emperors were still great emperors. Lord-level experts could not compare to them at all, not even quasi-emperors. The Dragon Rebel tribe had many emperors to be, such as the Dragon Rebel flying team. After the quasi-emperors of the Dragon Rebel clan had awakened the inverse dragon blood seal, their battle prowess was comparable to that of a great emperor. A slight difference was a slight difference. This was something that could not be made up for with numbers. No matter how many quasi-emperors there were, they would not be able to kill a great emperor. This was common knowledge in the third heaven. Furthermore, the great emperor of the Fan family hadn't just broken through to the Arch realm. Instead, he had broken through to the Arch realm more than 200,000 years ago. His strength was considered above average among the Arch realm experts in the Flying Fire continent. What happened? Why did Immortal Emperor Fan escape first? But what about the Lin clan's great emperor? What about the other experts from the three great powers? No one could figure it out. All they could do was look at Immortal Emperor Fan and wait for his answer. Immortal Emperor Fan looked bitter. He waved his other intact arm and sighed. "Let's all retreat to our clans. This time, our three great powers have lost completely. Great Emperor Lin Yun has died in battle. Most of the people inside are also dead. We don't know how many can escape. Retreat immediately. Otherwise, when the Dragon Rebel clan catches up with us, none of us will be able to escape." Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, everyone outside was shaken to the point that their bodies trembled. If it wasn't Immortal Emperor Fan who said this, no one would believe it. Great Emperor Lin Yun was dead? The Arch Realm expert was dead? How could this be possible? Who could kill him? A formidable martial artist from the Lin clan was trembling all over. Obviously, he did not believe it. He shouted, "Immortal Fan, are you lying to us? How could Emperor Yin be dead? Who could kill him? Just those good-for-nothings from the Dragon Rebel clan? This is impossible. I don't believe it. Good-for-nothings from the Dragon Rebel clan? Ha ha ha." Immortal Emperor Fan seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. His face was full of self-mockery. He said coldly, "The Dragon Rebel clan has broken through to the Arch realm. The intelligence departments of the three great powers are all good-for-nothings. They couldn't even find this out. The Arch realm experts of the Dragon Rebel clan. You think about it yourselves. Besides, they're not only the Dragon Rebel clan, but also the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan. Everyone from the Fan clan, listen my order. Retreat immediately." Swish! After Immortal Emperor Fan finished speaking, he turned into a beam of flowing light and flew away, leaving behind a group of dumbfounded people. The people from the Fan clan reacted quickly and left in a hurry. The people from the Lin clan and the Water Cloud Palace were all dumbfounded. The Dragon Rebel clan had broken through to the Arch Realm. The Dragon Rebel clan was one of the 10 ancient divine clans. After awakening the inverse Dragon Blood Seal, their combat strength would soar. After the Dragon Rebel clan broke through to the Arch Realm and awakened the inverse Dragon Blood Seal, their combat strength would also soar. They would be able to defeat ordinary Arch Realm experts easily. There was also the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan, which was also one of the 10 great ancient clans. Although they had been exterminated in the past, after so many years of recuperation, they had accumulated a lot of experts. It was likely that all the experts of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan had come. What was the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan doing here? Of course, they weren't here to help the Dragon Rebel clan. They were here to take over territory. After wiping out the 3 forces, they would have their own territory. Then, they would be able to gather all the pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan in the level 3 heaven. If the Dragon Rebel clan had an Arch Realm expert, it would become the overlord of the Flying Fire Continent. With the protection of the Dragon Rebel clan, the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan could easily occupy this territory and grow stronger quickly. In a few hundred or a few thousand years, the powerful Heavenly Blood Eagle clan would rise above level 3 again. Retreat! People from the Water Cloud Palace and the Lin family shouted, clenching their teeth. If they didn't retreat now, none of them would be able to escape when the Dragon Rebel clan and the Heavenly Blood Eagle clan came. Defeat was inevitable. Nobody could reverse the situation. Of the 3 great powers, except for the Fan family, who could manage to protect themselves, the other 2 were destined to lose. If they didn't go back and make arrangements for their retreat, the other 2 forces would be wiped out in the end. Whoosh, 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 people kept rushing out from the entrance. They didn't stop after they came out. They turned into beams of light and flew away. Everyone was shocked. All the forces had sent scouts to Yu Ting Mountain. They all heard Immortal Emperor Fan's words. The news was spread out as fast as they could. Powerful warriors of many forces gathered nearby. When they heard the news, they were all shocked, their faces full of terror. Chapter 25:30. Half a month later, the news had spread throughout the entire Soaring Fire Continent. It had also begun to spread throughout the entire 3rd layer of the Soaring Fire Continent. In a few months, the news would spread throughout the entire 3rd layer of the Soaring Fire Continent. It was a very common thing for forces to fight each other in the 3rd heavenly layer. However, the death of an Emperor Stage powerhouse had a huge impact, and it was bound to cause a sensation in the entire 3rd heaven. After this battle, the Dragon Rebel clan would become a top force on the Flying Fire Continent, or even in the whole level 3 heaven. The name of the Flying Dragon Rebels would also become particularly dazzling, and they would become the top existence in the 3rd heaven. The Dragon Rebel clan was one of the top 10 holy clans in the ancient times. This clan had nature-defying talents. The heavens were fair, and their cultivation was exceptionally difficult. Other than the founding ancestor, there hadn't been a second Emperor-level expert in the past few hundred years. Today, the Dragon Rebel tribe had given birth to a super genius who had broken through to the Emperor level. It also represented the Dragon Rebel tribe's strong rise. As long as Dragon Rebel Xiang didn't die, the Dragon Rebel tribe would be glorious and powerful for hundreds of thousands of years. Many factions on the Flying Fire Continent had originally planned to join the victors and loot the losers after the war ended. None of the forces dared to make a move. The 3 forces were now in the Dragon Rebel clan's pocket. Who would dare to fight with the Dragon Rebel clan for food? Many forces on the Flying Fire Continent were on tenterhooks. Maybe in the future, all forces would have to struggle to survive under the tyranny of the Dragon Rebel clan. Since the Dragon Rebel Flying clan could fight 2 Emperor-level experts alone, killing one and injuring the other, no force on the Flying Fire Continent could compete with the Dragon Rebel clan. All the mysteries had been solved. Previously, Many people had thought the Dragon Rebel clan was crazy and the Dragon Rebel clan was stupid. Not until then did they understand that the Dragon Rebel clan was luring the strong men of the three forces into the treasure land. Then they would inflict heavy losses on the three forces in one battle and kill them all. The Watercloud Palace and the Lin family were very smart. The remaining experts had retreated right away. After returning to their clans, they did not stay there. Instead, they arranged for some of them to enter the various pocket dimensions. The remaining people split into two groups. One group fled towards the Cold Wave Sea in the north, while the other group fled towards the Silver Flame Sea in the south. If they didn't run, they would die. They could only wait for their clan to be exterminated. Defeat was defeat. One had to face reality. If they didn't face it, then they would be completely annihilated. How many people could escape now? As long as they survived, there would be a day when they could rise again. It was just like the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan back then. Most of their clansmen had been killed, and some of them had escaped. After recuperating for so many years, they had now come back to kill. As long as they could escape this time, as long as they could survive this time, then they still had hope of rising up. The matter of the Cloudy Heaven Blood Eagle clan made many forces feel uneasy. Back then, many clans and forces had participated in the encirclement of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan. If they allowed the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan to rise again, they would definitely seek revenge. However, the Dragon Rebel clan was at its peak right now. Who would have the nerve to pick on the Dragon Rebel clan? If the Dragon Rebels dared to kill one overlord level, they would dare to kill another. No one dared to take the risk. The Turbid Heaven Blood Eagle clan had officially made their appearance. More than 10 12-winged Turbid Heaven Blood Eagles had arrived. There were also hundreds of 10-winged experts. 12-winged experts represented Lord-level experts, and not just ordinary Lord-level experts. The 10 ancient holy clans all had their own talents, and their combat strengths could suppress those of the same level. The territories of the Lin family and the Watercloud Palace were divided by the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan and the Dragon Rebel clan. The Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan sent out a summons, asking all the clansmen of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan in the Third Heaven to gather here. The two clans didn't attack the Fan family's territory right away. One reason was that the Overlord-level experts of the Fan family hadn't died yet, and the other was that the Watercloud Palace and the Lin family needed time to stabilize their territories. The Dragon Rebel clan has broken through to the Overlord level. Awesome. Tian Yazzie sighed with emotion when he got the news. Quasi-Emperor and Great Emperor both had the word Emperor in their names, but they were worlds apart. Tian Yazzie's current combat strength was comparable to a Quasi-Emperor's, but to break through to the Overlord level, he felt it was harder than reaching the sky. Most importantly, he didn't have the slightest confidence. He felt he was too far away from the Overlord level, and he might never have the chance to break through in this lifetime. What was more, even if he did, there was still a huge gap between him and the Dragon Rebel clan. After the Dragon Rebel clan awakened the Reverse Dragon Blood Seal, he could crush average Overlord-level warriors. Tian Yazzie didn't tell Lu Li about this, even though the Watercloud Palace and the Lin family were finished. The Fan family and the Dragon Rebel clan didn't have time to deal with Lu Li. In other words, Lu Li was safe. As long as he didn't show himself in public, nobody would target him. That being said, Tian Yazzie believed Lu Li's realm was too low. Since Lu Li was going to the Golden Water region to cultivate, then Tian Yazzie should let him cultivate for a few years. At the very least, he could survive the Fourth Heaven Tribulation when he came out. Lu Li was cultivating in peace. He was absolutely safe here. The outside world was sealed off. Tian Yazzie would send someone to inform Lu Li at once if there was any important information. Lu Li didn't care about anything else. He focused on cultivating divine energy, improving his soul, refining his body, and studying the trace of the Great Tao to try to dissolve that divine chain of order. When he was in closed-door cultivation, he didn't have much sense of time. If nobody woke him up, he wouldn't wake up for 2 or 3 years. Outside, the Dragon Rebel clan and the pure Heaven Blood Eagles had been digesting the territories for a while. They were mobilizing powerful warriors to hunt down the remnants of the Lin family and the Water Cloud Palace. If the roots were not eradicated, they would grow again. Only by killing as many powerful warriors of the two races as possible could they avoid future troubles. Many families affiliated to the two forces were dealt with as well. Of course, some major families ran away. More families and forces chose to surrender. Those who didn't would face death. The Dragon Rebel clan and the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan treated those who surrendered well. The Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan didn't have any foundation here. Now that some major forces and families had chosen to surrender, the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan would gladly accept them. The Fan family had been secretly relocating as well. They knew they couldn't go on like this. Sooner or later, they would be wiped out by the Dragon Rebel clan and the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan. The Dragon Rebel clan could come at any time. By then, what could a mortal Emperor Fan do? The Fan family had an emperor. They could conquer a territory wherever they went. It was just a matter of whether the other Emperor-level warriors and super families would be affected. The Fan family had chosen the Silver Flame Sea area as their target. They had sent someone to the Silver Flame Sea area to negotiate with the Wu family, indicating that they wanted to get close to the Wu family. As long as Sunlight Emperor didn't object, the Fan family could easily gain a foothold in the Silver Flame Sea area. By then, the Dragon Rebel clan would have to think twice before attacking them. After all, they had a very powerful Sunlight Emperor. All the disciples of the Dragon Rebel clan who had entered the secret realm came out. All the clansmen were in high spirits. The young people of the Dragon Rebel clan gathered together and got drunk for 3 days. All the young clansmen of the Dragon Rebel clan felt their backs were much straighter. Without a doubt, in the future, the outstanding young people of their clan would become the top young masters and young mistresses on the Flying Fire continent. They would surpass the young masters and young mistresses of other forces. Because a great emperor had appeared in the Dragon Rebel clan, they would become the supreme overlord of the Flying Fire continent. Chapter 25:31. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. The Dragon Rebel clan and the Murky Heaven Snow Eagle clan had taken over all the territories of the Water Cloud Palace and the Lins. The Fan family ran away, too. The Dragon Rebel clan and the Heavenly Snow Eagle clan kept marching into the Fan family's territory and took it over easily. The Fan clan and the Wu clan had reached an agreement. They all moved to the Silver Flame Sea area. Sunlight Emperor acquiesced and gave up a piece of land. The Fan clan would take over several big clans there. 2 years were enough for the entire Fan family to move. However, they couldn't move the treasured lands. The Dragon Rebel clan and the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan had swallowed them up. The Dragon Rebel clan got the lion's share. The entire Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan of the Third Heaven also returned one after another. The strength of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan shocked everyone. Originally, they had thought that this race did not have many people left. During this year, many mixed Heaven Blood Hawks had returned. They all had 8 or 10 wings, and there were 7 or 8 with 12 wings. The alliance of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan and the Dragon Rebel clan made all the big forces on the Flying Fire continent feel pressured. Several forces had planned to unite to suppress the Dragon Rebel clan and the Pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan. However, after the Flying Dragon Rebel sent someone to deliver a message, those forces dared not act recklessly. The Dragon Rebel clan has stood on this land for so many years. We have deep feelings for this land. We don't want this land to be plunged into the endless flames of war. We won't start a war, and we're not afraid of war. If you insist on fighting, the Dragon Rebel tribe won't hesitate to fight. Once the war starts, we won't stop until we die. What the Dragon Rebel clan said was very resolute. It explained the Dragon Rebel clan's attitude. The last sentence, in particular, scared all the big families. How terrifying would a Dragon Rebel clan member who had broken through to the Emperor realm be? The death and injury of immortal Emperor Lin Yun and immortal Emperor Fan were proof. There were a few Thearchs in the Flying Fire continent, but none of them dared to claim that they could fight 2 Thearchs alone or kill one Arch. Even if 3 or 4 emperors from the Flying Fire continent joined forces, could they really kill the Dragon Rebels? If he couldn't kill the members of the Dragon Rebel Flying Squad, the Dragon Rebel Flying Squad was bound to take revenge. At that time, they would really fight to the death. There was one more thing. Both the Dragon Rebel clan and the pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan were ancient races. It was difficult for them to reproduce, so they didn't have many clansmen. Therefore, the great factions of the Soaring Fire continent weren't worried about the two races joining forces to unify the Soaring Fire continent. They had too few people, and even if they conquered the Soaring Fire continent, they didn't have enough people to manage it. In other words, the Soaring Fire continent was too big for the two races to swallow. Now that the two races had swallowed 3 large territories, it was already enough. Any larger territories would probably be difficult for them to manage. As such, the major powers of the Flying Fire continent weren't worried that the two races would continue to expand. Even if they wanted to expand, they would have to wait hundreds or even thousands of years. So, the various powers had time to think about how to deal with this situation. They did not dare to act rashly now. It was undeniable that the Dragon Rebel tribe would become the absolute overlord of the Flying Fire continent. No force would dare to provoke the Dragon Rebel tribe. They would have to follow the Dragon Rebel tribe's lead. This had a great impact on the entire Level 3 heaven. The death of an Emperor-level strongman would probably last for several years. The Dragon Rebel clan's strong rise would become the main topic of discussion in the Level 3 heaven during this period. The surviving members of the Lens and the Water Cloud Palace had been hunted down by the Dragon Rebel clan and the Murky Heaven Snow Eagle clan, but many of them had escaped to the Frigid Sea area and the Silver Flame Sea area. No matter how strong the two races were, they wouldn't send powerful warriors to the two seas for the time being. The Fan family had gained a firm foothold in the Silver Flame Sea area, which was a source of trouble for the Dragon Rebel clan and the Murky Heaven Blood Eagle clan. But the two races were not afraid. With such a large territory, the two races would grow stronger in the future, especially the Murky Heaven Blood Eagle clan. All the Murky Heaven Blood Eagles in the Level 3 heaven would come back. With the help of a large amount of resources, the rise of the Murky Heaven Blood Eagle clan was set in stone. Luli had been forgotten by the world. Naturally, the three forces would not continue to track him down. The Dragon Rebel clan had no time to worry about him, either. Luli had been missing for a long time. Not even the Dragon Rebel pool, the Dragon Rebel Yin, and the others cared about him. Faced with such a powerful Dragon Rebel race, Luli was a strange nonentity at best. Luli had been cultivating in the Golden Water region for more than 2 years. His physical body had been strengthened, and so had his divine energy and soul. He had consumed almost half of the elixirs in his interspatial ring. I think I can go through the 4th heaven tribulation now. Luli opened his eyes today. His physical body, soul, divine energy, and fundamental principle had all been achieved. Luli's state of mind was much more mature than before. After meeting Lu Ling, the biggest knot in his heart had been untied. At least, it was not as dangerous as when he went through the heaven tribulation. I will cultivate for another half a year. When I pass the heaven tribulation, I will set off for the 2nd heaven. Luli made up his mind after some thoughts. It had been a long time. The outside world shouldn't be tracking him anymore. He had been in the Level 3 heaven for a long time. He had accomplished the task of killing the Asmodean Lord and met Lu Ling. It was time to go back to the 2nd heaven. Let's see if I can make a breakthrough in the trace of the Great Tao in the half a year. Luli was a bit disappointed. After such a long time, he had made some progress in the trace of the Great Tao, but not in the divine chains of order. He knew that he could not make it in a short period of time. He had to calm down and study patiently. Haste did not lead to success. Half a year passed by quickly. Luli had made no progress in the divine chains of order. He had been refining his body for such a long time. It seemed that he was growing. But compared to his physical strength, this improvement was nothing. The stronger the physical body, the harder it would be to improve quickly unless he could find some miraculous elixirs. But such elixirs were hard to come by. Even if one had a large number of divine stones, one could not buy such elixirs. Of course, there was another way. For example, cultivating in the flames of destruction would speed up his progress. It was a pity that Lu Li's physical body would be burnt to a crisp in the flames of destruction. Lu Li was not in a hurry to improve his physical body. It was all up to fate. If there was such a chance, he would not give it up. If not, then there was no need to force it. Lu Li had pinned his hopes on the divine chains of order. If he could consume the divine chains of order, his abilities would soar. This was what the nameless demon emperor said. Words of a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm could be trusted. Let's go. Lu Li flew toward the small island. When he landed, he stepped into the teleportation formation and teleported to the island he came from. There was a patriarch here. Hearing that Lu Li wanted to go out, the patriarch didn't say anything. He teleported Lu Li out. That patriarch brought Lu Li back to the castle where Tian Yangzi lived. Tian Yangzi was not in closed-door cultivation. He was reading the history of ancient times. When Lu Li came out, Tian Yangzi nodded and said, "Good. You have been in there for almost 3 years. You are steadier now, and your physical body has improved. I think you can go through the 4th heavenly tribulation at any time." "Brother," Lu Li asked, "how is it going out there?" "Ha." Tian Yangzi said with a smile, "Your sister's race is playing a big game. The Dragon Rebel race is at the top of their game. The 3 forces have been eliminated." Lu Li didn't understand what was going on outside. Tian Yangzi explained it to him patiently. Lu Li was shocked. He didn't know that the Dragon Rebel race had reached the Great Emperor realm. He didn't know that the Great Emperor of the Lin family was killed. The 3 forces had left the Flying Fire continent. Chapter 25:32. Tian Yangzi didn't stop Lu Li from going back. The fact that Lu Li came out after only 2 years of cultivation indicated that he was not calm enough. Staying here would affect Lu Li's state of mind, and he wouldn't make much progress in cultivation. Also, Tian Yangzi believed that even if Lu Li went back to the 2nd heaven, he would go to the 3rd heaven in a couple of decades. Lu Li had seen the colorful world of the 3rd heaven. The 2nd heaven was like a poor village. The Xianqi in heaven and earth and resources at the 2nd heaven could not compare with those of the 3rd heaven. Tian Yangzi ordered someone to prepare for the heaven's tribulation. He told Lu Li to rest for a couple of days to stabilize his state of mind. When the time came, Tian Yangzi would give Lu Li a hand and make it easier for him to go through the heaven's tribulation. 10 days later, Lu Li began the 4th heaven's tribulation. Tian Yangzi told the Hua family to seal off the news. Nobody was allowed to get close to the tribulation platform. In this way, even if someone found out someone was going through the heaven's tribulation, they wouldn't be able to tell that it was Lu Li. The 4th heaven's tribulation was much fiercer than the previous ones. Luckily, Lu Li had met all the requirements, especially his physical body and soul. The first few heaven's tribulations didn't pose much pressure to Lu Li, especially the thunderbolts. Lu Li's physical body could withstand them easily. For him, it was more like a way to refine his body. Now, the demons in Lu Li's mind were no longer Lu Ling, but his family and friends. Many illusions appeared in his mind. For example, the Phoenix Empress had sent people to the 2nd heaven and started a massacre in the 2nd heaven, killing all his clansmen, lovers, and relatives. Lu Li had a fatal weakness, which was that he had not cultivated long enough. He had many demons in his mind. That was why he had never dared to go through the heaven's tribulation. At this moment, he understood why the Dragon Rebel race had sealed Lu Ling's soul. If Lu Ling's memory was not sealed, then she would still have strong inner demons. Not to mention the heaven's tribulation, her daily cultivation would be affected as well. If Lu Ling's memory was not sealed, she would not be able to cultivate so fast. She could reach the 5th heaven's tribulation because of the top-level resources of the Dragon Rebel race. For another, she was talented. For another, her memory must have been sealed. At the critical moment, it was Tian Yangzi who made great efforts. He used some powerful skill to pull Lu Li back from the illusion and to weaken his inner demons so that Lu Li could survive the trial. The tribulation of primordial chaos was better. Even though Lu Li's flesh was torn, he managed to survive. Although he was severely injured in the end, he managed to survive and overcome the heavenly tribulation. For tribulations, he was the most powerful warrior in the second heaven. Lu Li's strength and realm had improved by leaps and bounds after he came to the third heaven. Many people would find it hard to believe that he could go back to the second heaven. Lu Li was brought back by Tian Yazi. He passed out at once. The injury was serious. Even his soul was hurt. He would have to rest for at least several months. Lu Li slept for 5 days. When he woke up, he began to cultivate and heal his wounds. He could clearly feel that his overall strength had improved greatly after going through the heavenly tribulation. His physical body, divine power, soul, and other aspects had all been transformed. After 2 heavenly tribulations, Lu Li had become a warrior of the 4th tribulation from 2nd tribulation warrior. He had been well prepared. Of course, this had a lot to do with Tian Yazi's help. Without him, Lu Li might not have survived the 3rd heavenly tribulation. Sister, you have progressed so fast. Maybe the flying dragon rebel has helped you as well? Tian Yazi said that he could only help Lu Li to the 4th tribulation. He would not be able to help Lu Li for the 5th one. If he could find a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm to help him, then it was not impossible for him to survive the 5th heavenly tribulation. The flying dragon rebel was a warrior of the great emperor realm. It was said that Lu Ling had something to do with Tian Yazi. The flying dragon rebel must have contributed to Lu Ling's improvement. It was so easy for a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm to guide a junior. Lu Li had been healing for more than 2 months. His wounds were healed and his realm was stabilized. He decided to leave. He walked out of the room and said goodbye to Tian Yazi. Tian Yazi didn't ask him to stay. He just asked, "How do you plan to go back?" "How?" Lu Li was surprised. Then he explained, "I will take the battleship of the Palace of Smoke to the Fire City, and then go across the Silver Flame Sea to the Wind Continent, and then to the Ziyang Continent." "That is too slow." Tian Yazi shook his head and said, "Also, there are too many uncertainties on the way. You will be targeted and hunted down by your enemies." "Then what should I do?" Lu Li was confused. Was there any other way for him to go? "Have you heard of the Space City?" Tian Yazi said. Seeing that Lu Li was confused, he explained, "The Space City is a super force. You must have heard of the Reincarnation Emperor." "Yes, of course." Lu Li had heard of this. Patriarch Gui once said that there were 3 acknowledged most powerful emperors in the world: the Reincarnation Emperor, Emperor of Freedom, and Emperor Candle Heaven. The Reincarnation Emperor ranked first. Tian Yazi explained, "The master of the Space City is the Reincarnation Emperor. He is acknowledged to be one of the top 3 emperors of the 3rd heaven. He has mastered laws of space and time." The Space City is an independent force in the 3rd heaven. They don't fight with other forces, but they are not afraid of provocation. They have a very powerful ability. They can send you anywhere you want within a short period of time. But the price is very high. "That is good." Lu Li was delighted. The Space City was similar to the space-time office in the Divinity. The price didn't matter. He had killed many demons before, and he had many treasures, divine stones, and materials. If they were all auctioned, he could get several trillion divine stones. Lu Li asked at once, "Brother, how many divine stones do I have to pay if I can get to the Ziyang continent in one go?" As long as he could get to the Ziyang continent, then everything else would be easy. It wouldn't take him much time to go back to the 2nd heaven from the Ziyang continent. "I don't know, at least several trillion divine stones," Tian Yazi said after some thoughts. Then he looked at Lu Li and asked, "Do you have enough divine stones? Don't you need me to give you some?" "I do have several trillion divine stones." Lu Li grinned. "When I was outside the Blazing Island, I killed a patriarch of the Wu family with thunderbolts and many other demons. I got many treasures and materials. I think I can get 4 to 5 trillion divine stones if I trade them." Tian Yazi was surprised. He didn't know that Lu Li had so many treasures. Tian Yazi was taken aback. He thought about it and said, "Well, don't sell them. I will get someone to appraise them, and I will buy them for 30% above the market price." The whole family needs to buy some of the materials as well. 30%. Luli touched his nose in embarrassment. Tian Yazi was giving him a lot of divine stones. Luli didn't argue. After all, the whole family was a big family. An extra trillion divine stones was nothing to the whole family. Tian Yazi waved his hand and said, "Okay, that's it. When it is done, I will have someone open a portal and send you to the frigid sea. The space city is in the center of the frigid sea. It will be easy to find. Go back and have a look. You can go back to the third heaven. I can live for a few more years. The great Buddha mountain welcomes you at any time." Chapter 25:33. Luli took out all the miscellaneous treasures and materials he had and piled them up. Tian Yazi sent someone to sort them out and set the price. Because of Tian Yazi, Luli was not worried that he would be cheated. Some inconspicuous treasures from the interspatial rings of the Asmodeans were offered a high price. Some special materials were valuable as well. Luli did not take out the body refinement materials. He planned to consume them later. In the end, the whole family offered 7 trillion for all the treasures and materials. The price was much higher. The whole family was being very nice to Tian Yazi. The whole family gave Luli a jade talisman after the price was offered. This kind of jade talisman belonged to a super force in the third heaven, the Flourishing Hall. Many cities in the third heaven had branches of the Flourishing Hall. With this jade talisman, one could take out the divine stones easily. Luli had never heard of the Flourishing Hall, but he trusted the whole family and Tian Yazi. He took over the jade talisman without saying anything and thanked the patriarchs. The whole family began to build a space gate for Luli. After all, he would be teleported to the edge of the frigid sea, which was a long distance. This was an ultra-long distance teleportation, which required a lot of complicated arrangements. Luli stayed with the whole family. He didn't cultivate anymore. He spent all his time with Tian Yazi, reading, playing chess, chatting, and drinking. Tian Yazi was not only powerful in fighting, but also experienced in many ways. Luli benefited a lot from this. Tian Yazi told Luli that he could practice soul attacks and that he should pay more attention to improving his soul. He also gave Luli some advanced soul-nurturing pellets. Luli didn't say no now. He was just grateful. He saved Tian Yazi's life, and Tian Yazi had helped him a lot. It was hard to say who owed whom. Luli remembered this kindness. From now on, the whole family's business would be his business, and he would spare no effort. 5 days later, the space gate was ready. Tian Yazi took Luli directly to the castle where the space gate was opened. Tian Yazi waved his hand without hesitation and said, "Little Lu, go ahead. Bon voyage." Luli was reluctant. He didn't know how many years he would have to wait before he could go back to the great Buddha mountain. Nobody knew what was going to happen. What if he could never come back? Perhaps this meeting would be an eternal farewell. He took a deep look at Tian Yazi, then bowed with cupped hands and said in a low voice, "Big brother, take care. Little Lu is leaving." With that said, Luli made up his mind and left. He dashed into the black gate and disappeared. The space gate slowly closed as well. Peace returned to the castle. Apart from Tian Yazi, there were 3 other patriarchs of the whole family here. One of the patriarchs couldn't help but ask after the portal disappeared, "Ancestorya, you seem to value Luli a lot." They all knew that Tian Yazi brought Luli to the Yuding Mountain. He was willing to offend several major forces just to help Luli get to the treasured land. After that, he gave Luli the position of an honorary elder and even gave Luli a few trillion divine stones. Even if Luli had saved Tian Yazi, he didn't have to pay so much attention to him. "You don't understand." Tian Yazi waved his hand and said with a sigh, "I've been looking through ancient historical records and discovered something. Little Lu seems to have a unique physique from ancient times." Oh, the 3 patriarchs were surprised. Apart from the fact that Luli was cultivating the supreme divine body, there was nothing special about him. One patriarch asked, "Ancestorya, what kind of special physique?" "7th tribulation." Tian Yazi squinted and added, "You won't understand even if I tell you." Don't ask too many questions. This guy is strange. If nothing goes wrong, he has a good chance to reach the Emperor realm. What? Tian Yazi's words stunned the three patriarchs. The Emperor realm was something far away for them. How could Tian Yazi say that Lu Li had a chance to do so? How is that possible? When the Supreme Divine Body was completed, the warrior's abilities would be comparable to the Emperor's. Over the past millions of years, how many warriors had completed the Supreme Divine Body? In the recent million years, there was only one Emperor Z. Lu Li didn't have a force behind him. The whole family was one. But Tian Yazi didn't plan to help Lu Li on the path of the Supreme Divine Body. Otherwise, he would ask the family to allocate a large number of elixirs to strengthen Lu Li's body. Therefore, the three patriarchs were confused. What was the basis of Tian Yazi's words? Was it just instinct? That's a little ridiculous. Okay, don't overthink it. Tian Yazi shook his head and walked out. At the door, he said, "Little Lu's business must be kept secret. If anyone leaks any information, Tian Yazi's last words were cold. The three patriarchs trembled with fear. Even though they had many questions, nobody dared to disobey the order of the eccentric Master Yi. Lu Li didn't know how long he had been flying in the void. Luckily, his soul was strong enough to stand it. He felt it had been at least half a month before he saw a ray of light. He rushed out from the light and appeared in midair. He was wearing the shape-shifting mask, which changed his appearance to that of an old man. His hair was silver and his back was bent. He looked no different from an old man. He used psychic power to check and was surprised. He was above a lake. A group of girls were surrounding him in midair. All of them were aiming at him with weapons in their hands. The girls were not particularly strong. Most of them were at the fourth tribulation, and they were all young. Only a middle-aged girl who was slightly older was at the fifth tribulation. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the forbidden area of the Peach Blossom Palace?" The middle-aged girl said coldly. Lu Li was only at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Clearly, she didn't think highly of him. If Lu Li were a young master, she might be more polite. However, he was just an old man at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Naturally, she would look down on him. "Ah ha ha." Lu Li laughed. He saw that many girls' hair was wet and their robes were not intact. He thought they must have been bathing in the lake. They must be upset that they were alarmed by his opening of the spatial gate. Lu Li smiled, cupped his fists, and said, "I'm the divine dragon Taoist. I am sorry that I have trespassed into your place. I will leave now." The middle-aged girl sneered and said, "You think you can come and go as you please? What do you think the Peach Blossom Palace is? Leave behind 500 billion divine stones, or your hands, or you will not be able to leave." Lu Li was speechless. The opening of the spatial gate was a rough area. He had trespassed by accident, and he didn't cause them any actual harm. Did the Peach Blossom Palace really think he was somebody? The Peach Blossom Palace was not one of the 27 forces at the Flying Fire Land. Clearly, the Peach Blossom Palace was just a middle-level force. How could they be so arrogant? Lu Li was only at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Chapter 25:34. It was true that the Peach Blossom Palace was a middle-sized force, but it was backed by a major force. Many young ladies of the Peach Blossom Palace were married to major forces nearby. Therefore, the disciples of the Peach Blossom Palace had always been arrogant. If Lu Li were a warrior of the fifth tribulation or a young master, their attitude would be different. Lu Li was just an old man at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. How could they like him? Lu Li's words enraged the others. They rebuked him at once. The middle-aged lady of the fifth tribulation had some bracelets on her arms and ankles. She began to dance around Lu Li. Her hands and feet were shaking. The bracelets and ankles made a pleasant sound. "Ha ha ha." The other young ladies spread out and stood in some strange formation. Many took out bells and red silk, ready to cooperate at any time. That being said, everyone had faith in the middle-aged lady. They believed that Lu Li would be a piece of cake when she made a move. Clank, clank, ding, clank, clank. The beautiful middle-aged lady danced around Lu Li in midair. The silver bracelets on her wrists and ankles trembled, emitting a pleasant sound. The sound turned into sound waves that radiated towards Luli like ripples. Luli stood in midair without moving. If a warrior at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation could take him down, then he would be better off dead. He could feel surges of energy surging into his body and into his soul. His dragon's soul glowed and began to consume the energy. Luli sensed it and knew what was going on. The energy was good, but his dragon's soul could stand it. What was more, his soul energy had turned into soul needles, which increased his soul defense. Clank, 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 the bracelets and ankles kept making noises. Luli stood in midair as if nothing had happened, watching the lady dance as if he was enjoying a free dance. The others were stunned. They had been dancing for such a long time, and Luli didn't react at all? Was his soul that strong? Or did he have a powerful, enchanted soul to protect his soul? Peach blossom formation. The middle-aged woman saw that this was not going to work. She shouted, and all the other girls started to move. Some of them had pipa, some had bells, some had flutes, some had fans, and some had red silk. All of them started to dance around Luli. It had to be said that the women of Peach Blossom Palace were very beautiful. Their dance was also very moving. If there was no soul attack, it would be a very beautiful performance. Of course, even though there were countless soul waves attacking him, Luli still felt no pressure. Soul waves surged in and were easily blocked by the dragon soul. Although these fourth tribulation warriors had the support of the battle formation, their attack power was still too weak. Luli didn't do anything. Instead, he looked around with interest, enjoying the beautiful dance for free. The more they danced, the more shocked they were. Their souls were strong, but nothing happened to Luli. Was he really a warrior of the fourth tribulation? Change formation, plum blossom formation. The middle-aged woman sensed something was wrong. She shouted again. Most of the women put away their instruments. Only 2 of them were playing. The others changed into another formation and danced around Luli. This time, the dance was different. This time, the dance was full of seduction. Every frown and every smile of theirs could steal the soul away. Also, the robes the women were wearing were clearly treasures. At the moment, they were faintly discernible, very seductive. The skill of seduction is very advanced. Luli nodded after a while. The skill of seduction didn't have much effect on him, but did make him feel aroused. It had been years since he had made love with a woman. Inevitably, he was excited to see this. That being said, this level of seduction was not enough to make him fall for it. He decided to stop after a while. The soft sword in his hand began to shake. Invisible ripples spread out. Luli's first target was the middle-aged woman of the fifth tribulation. The woman was stunned for a moment. Soon, she hugged her head and rolled around. Luli waved his other hand. A huge hand appeared and smashed the woman into the lake. Sister Juan, what is wrong? Go and report to the patriarchs. Send a distress signal and ask for powerful warriors of our race to come. Ask our master to come and kill this old dog. Go and ask our master to kill this old dog. The group of women shouted. Luli was annoyed. He didn't want to be so harsh, but he couldn't bear it any longer. He didn't even use soul attacks. He dashed over like a dragon and slapped the women away one by one. To him, the fourth tribulation warriors were no different from lambs. Many women launched other kinds of attacks at Luli, but they couldn't inflict any harm on him. The attacks of the fourth tribulation warriors were too weak. Bang, bang, bang. Luli walked around and smashed more than a dozen women into the lake. Many of them were injured by him. Luli dealt a heavy blow to some of the more arrogant ones and severely injured them. Luli didn't kill anyone. He didn't have any deep hatred against the Peach Blossom Palace, so there was no need to offend them. There must be a super force behind the Peach Blossom Palace. If he angered the super force, he would be in big trouble. After smashing everyone away, Luli flew to the distance like an arrow. He didn't stay any longer. He didn't fly into the void because this was a skill unique to him and the crippled Zen master. Once he used it, his identity would be exposed. Boom! As soon as he flew away, a huge firework bloomed in the sky. Following that, There were noises coming from all directions. This was the forbidden area of the Peach Blossom Palace. It must be at the center of the Peach Blossom Palace. As soon as the distress signal was sent out, many warriors swarmed over. Luli used psychic power to check. He frowned. At least more than 1,000 people flew up and gathered here. There were not many powerful warriors, and most of them were at the fourth tribulation. That being said, it would be troublesome if there were too many of them. Luli thought for a while and decided to take out the horn. He got it from the Palace of Seven Sounds. He hadn't used it since Blood Fairy took control of it. The horn could be used to attack in groups. It was a good chance for him to try it out. Standing in midair, Luli took out the horn. Following Blood Fairy's instructions, he poured divine energy into the horn and some special runes. As the divine runes were activated, the horn quickly released a powerful aura. Moreover, this aura was extremely ancient and vast. Okay, the bugle horn was triggered, and more than 100 people flew over. Luli opened his mouth and blew at the bugle horn. A deep and murderous sound rang out, and sound waves spread out like ripples on water. Ah, bang, 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 bang. Chapter 25:35. Bang, bang, bang. Like poison mosquitoes, the warriors nearby fell to the ground one by one. The Peach Blossom Palace was mostly made up of females. They rolled around on the ground. All of them were beautiful. It was quite a sight to see hundreds of beautiful girls rolling around. Who are you? How dare you mess around in the Peach Blossom Palace? Someone shouted. 3 people flew out from a palace in the distance. The one who shouted was a noble lady. She was graceful and beautiful. She was at the latter stage of the 5th tribulation as well. She flew over with 2 people. The 2 of them were also 5th tribulation experts. They were both mid-stage 5th tribulation experts. Luli was worried to see that the latter stage of the 5th tribulation was at the latter stage. This person should be their palace lord, their strongest expert. In that split a second, Luli wondered if he should fly into the void and run away at once. That would expose him easily. If he didn't, he would have to fight to the death with this master. Clearly, the Peach Blossom Palace specialized in soul attacks. If this master's soul attacks were powerful, Luli would be doomed. Let's take a chance. Luli decided to take the risk. He had the horn, and he understood the law of divine sound. He wanted to try using the horn to release the law of divine sound. If he could do that, the power would be multiplied. Woo, 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 he didn't fly away. He stayed where he was and blew the horn. When he did, he began to release the law of divine sound according to the rhythm and waves. He wanted to see if he could release it through the horn. It didn't matter how he released the law of divine sound. As long as he could release the waves and rhythm of the law of divine sound, everything would be fine. Clank, clank, clank. From the distance came some pleasant tinkling of bells. Luli looked over and saw red bracelets on the hands and feet of the beautiful lady with bells hanging on them. Her body began to dance in midair, like a proud white swan dancing in the sky. She wore a white palace dress, graceful and luxurious bearing, charming style, graceful figure, moving dance. There was not a single part of her body that did not exude charm and allure. Luli could not look away after one look. The lady's skill of seduction was so good that Luli's heart skipped a beat. His soul was throbbing involuntarily. He felt his blood was flowing faster. The dragon soul in Luli's soul suddenly glowed. At this moment, Luli came back to his senses. Strange energy was sneaking into his soul. If someone had sneaked up on him, he would have been injured. Woo, woo, woo. Luli immediately closed his eyes and blew the horn with all his might. The sound of the horn was very powerful, and many people nearby fell to the ground again. Even the 2 people beside the palace lord couldn't take it anymore and covered their ears. This treasure is quite peculiar. The palace master's eyes lit up slightly, and the frequency of his movements became faster and faster. The bracelets, anklets, and bells on his hands and feet rang nonstop. Her eyes glowed as she looked at Luli. Luli entered the dreamland and shut off his senses. He could only sense with a trace of Tao. Even so, the palace master's dancing figure automatically appeared in his mind. It was extremely strange. After a while, Luli realized that he could not release the law of sound. He was getting anxious. He sensed that strange energy was surging in from his soul. Some of the energy was consumed by the dragon's soul, but there was still a lot of energy lurking in his soul. That energy was not aggressive at the moment, but Luli knew that once the energy accumulated and exploded, the outcome would be disastrous. Woo, 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 Luli kept blowing the horn. The palace master of Peach Blossom was still dancing in the air. Nobody dared to get close to them. They were fighting one-on-one. Anyone else would be implicated if they tried to get close. I cannot go on like this. Luli felt the energy in his soul was growing, but he could not use the law of sound with the horn. He made up his mind. If he could not do in the time for 10 breaths, then he would have to force himself to fly, even if he was seriously injured. Woo, 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 the horn was still blowing, but this time it was rhythmic. Sometimes it was fast, and sometimes it was slow. Every now and then, there would be a pause. It was awkward and harsh. All of a sudden, some warriors in the distance cried out in pain. The 2 patriarchs of the 5th tribulation trembled in pain. Even the palace master was trembling. Nice! Luli was excited. Just now, by accident, he was in tune with the rhythm of the divine sound and triggered it. But his excitement messed up the rhythm again. The law of sound stopped. Ow! The palace master was taken aback. Just now, she felt billions of golden needles were stabbing at her soul. If it were not for the fact that the golden needles disappeared in a flash, she would have been hit. She would not have been able to survive a soul attack of that intensity. We must kill him as soon as possible. A glint of coldness rose in the eyes of the palace master of Peach Blossom. If she did not kill him soon, then many things might go wrong. She might even be killed by Luli. Woo, right when she was about to ask the other 2 patriarchs to kill Luli, Luli's horn sounded rhythmically again, containing some strange rhythm. Shockwaves spread out. She felt billions of golden needles were stabbing at her soul. After a while, the palace master of Peach Blossom felt a tearing pain in her soul. Even her powerful, enchanted soul could not stand it. Her delicate body continued to tremble. She tried her best to neutralize the soul attack, but in the next second, she felt her neck being squeezed by a strong hand. She opened her eyes and saw a pair of cold, emotionless eyes. She was scared. This man was not a warrior of the 4th tribulation. He must be a powerful warrior. Otherwise, how could a warrior of the 4th tribulation have such a strong soul attack? Lord, the palace master of Peach Blossom put on a pitiful expression. She looked at Luli and said, "Okay, you win. I and everyone else of the palace of Peach Blossom will be at your mercy. You can do whatever you want." A graceful and noble lady, a queen who looked high and mighty in the eyes of many, was now looking at you with a pitiful expression, as if she was ready to be picked by you. If it was an ordinary person, they would have already fallen in love. Luli's expressions didn't change, and he was still filled with killing intent. The Peach Blossom Palace mistress hurriedly swept her gaze across, and a moment later, dozens of beautiful women flew over. They were all thin and plump. All of them had different styles. They all flew back and knelt in the air. One of them said, "Lord, please be magnanimous and let our palace mistress go. We are willing to be your slaves and serve you for the rest of our lives. Yes, Lord. You're a big shot. Don't mind us little girls. Lord, please come in and take a seat. Let's serve you well. Lord, let go of our master. From now on, we will all respect you. You could do whatever you want," the beautiful ladies said. They looked sad and pitiful. Many of them twisted their bodies and used seduction skills at the right time. They were seducing Luli invisibly. A bunch of sluts. Luli had gathered some information in the small town. He was more confident now. After teleporting more than a dozen times, he changed his appearance again and continued teleporting. After teleporting another dozen times, he changed his appearance again. The shape-shifting mask was a very high-level mask. Apart from overlords or powerful lords, most people wouldn't be able to see through it. As such, Luli was very confident in his ability to teleport. Half a day later, Luli noticed something was off. There were more scouts in the cities he teleported to. Clearly, they were looking for someone. Luli took a closer look and found that these people were all holding onto a portrait of him when he first disguised himself as the little old man. Looks like the influence of the Peach Blossom Palace isn't bad. Luli nodded. He was not worried. Those average warriors could not find him. They were about to enter the Frigid Wave Sea. Once they entered the Frigid Wave Sea, the Flying Fire Continent's forces wouldn't dare to cause trouble there. After another 4 hours of teleportation, Luli appeared in a huge city. To the north of the city was the Boundless Ocean. This city was called the Northern Chill City. After leaving this city, one would be able to enter the Frigid Sea. Luli gathered information about the Frigid Sea region in the city. Many people here often went to the Frigid Sea region, so they were familiar with the situation there. Luli had a basic understanding after some questions. There were 3 ways to get to the Frigid Sea region. The first was to fly over. Even though the Frigid Sea region was not chaotic, there were still some old demons. It would be dangerous for him to fly over. The second was to take a battleship. There was one that could go directly to the space city, and it would cost 80 billion divine stones. The third was the fastest, which was to take the space gate at the Northern Chill City. However, it would cost 1 trillion divine stones. That was not the point. The point was that the Northern Chill City was the territory of the Luofu Palace. There were scouts in the city searching for him with his portrait. Luli didn't dare to open the space gate. He would be in contact with powerful warriors of the Luofu Palace. What if he was seen through? Luli didn't dare to take the risk. Once he was discovered, he would be like a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Luli decided to take a battleship. The distance was not too far. He would arrive in 3 or 4 months. For Luli, several months was a short time. One closed-door cultivation would be over. Luli waited in the tavern after he paid the 10 billion divine stones. The battleship could depart in 5 days. Luli was nervous as well. If he was discovered and the Luofu Palace attacked him, the consequences would be dire. The shape-shifting mask was useful. Luli stayed in peace for 5 days and successfully boarded the battleship. The battleship was similar to the one at the Palace of Smoke. Maybe it was because the Frigid Sea region was safe. There were dozens of warriors of the Fifth Tribulation on the battleship, but no lord. There were many people on the battleship, about 2,000 or 3,000 in total. Luli went to a cabin to cultivate as soon as he boarded the battleship. He didn't want to communicate with anyone. He just wanted to get to the space city in peace. He was eager to go home. He had never thought about going back before, so he didn't think about reaching the second heaven. Now that he had decided to go home, he became anxious. He wished he could grow a pair of wings and fly back to the second heaven at once. He secretly made up his mind that he would try to keep a low profile and avoid conflict with others if something big happened. Just like how he didn't kill anyone at the Peach Palace. If it were the old him, he would have started a killing spree. The battleship flew away and soon entered the Frigid Sea region. Luli sensed it and finally understood why it was called the Frigid Sea region. The temperature here was low and the seawater was cold. There was even a cold air on the surface of the sea, but the seawater here was not frozen. Luli learned from the conversation on the battleship that the cold air here was horrifying. Usually, warriors of the Fourth Tribulation realm would be frozen or even frozen to death when they were enveloped by the cold air. There were divine patterns on the battleship, so the cold air outside could not affect the inside. Luli took a look and then left. He focused on cultivation, consuming elixirs and soul elixirs, and at the same time, studying the trace of Tao. Luli deliberately kept a low profile. He never went out and stayed in the cabin. Nobody came to disturb him. The Frigid Sea region was safe. Nobody attacked the battleship along the way. Soon, 2 months had passed. They had covered more than half of the distance. Luli was relieved. He would arrive at the space city in a month at most. The space city was absolutely safe. Once he was in the space city, he could go directly to the Ziyang land through the interspatial gate. Unfortunately, Luli was trying to keep a low profile. Yet trouble came knocking on his door. 3 days later, a ray of light came. The battleship was suddenly attacked. Then, the battleship exploded and everyone on board was shaken out. What is going on? Chapter 25:37. As soon as Luli came out, he used psychic power to check the surroundings. He was taken aback by what he saw. It was not that someone was targeting the battleships. It was just that two powerful warriors were fighting against each other. The shockwaves from their attacks hit the battleships and smashed them. They were two old warriors of the Lord Realm. Clearly, they were powerful warriors of the Lord Realm. Their attacks could tear apart space and leave a deep gully in the seawater. The two of them were clearly fighting with all their might. Both of them unleashed powerful killing moves. Even though there were warships approaching, they didn't care. Maybe it was because they used psychic power to check and there were no powerful warriors of the Lord Realm here. Naturally, they didn't mind. Swish, another streak of rainbow flew over. A surge of horrifying killing intent and energy enveloped everyone. Many people were taken aback. Luli released heaven armor at once and moved to the side. Boom, 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 boom. Nearly 100 warriors were minced into pieces. Luli was hit as well. He was smashed away, his armor cracked, and his body was covered in blood. But most of the blood belonged to people nearby. Luli didn't sustain serious injuries. Swish! Before the group of people could recover from their shock, another streak of light flew over. Another few dozen people were killed, and several hundred were injured. Spread out. Evacuate. Powerful warriors of the Luofu on the battleships were angry, but they dared not to say anything. Clearly, the two old warriors were from the frigid sea. They would not be afraid of the Luofu. If they dared to say anything extreme, they reckoned that the two old devils would release their attacks first and kill all of them. They had to admit that they were unlucky. They had to evacuate first. They had backup battleships. Those who died could be compensated later so that the reputation of the Luofu wouldn't be damaged. Something is wrong. Luli suddenly felt something was off. Another streak of rainbow was coming, and it was aiming at a place with many people. It seemed that the two old warriors were attacking continuously without paying attention to this side. But how could they be so accurate 3 times? Boom, 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 dozens more were killed. There were too many people over there, and many were seriously injured. It was a chaotic scene. Luli wanted to leave with the team, but he didn't dare to do so after seeing this. Whoosh! He kept a low profile and flew close to the surface of the sea, escaping in another direction. There were also some who did not follow the main group and fled in all directions. This time, there were many merchants with low battle prowess. They didn't dare to escape separately, so they could only escape together with the people from the Louvre. Sizzle. Luli flew for dozens of miles. Then he saw another ray of sword light flying toward the place with the most people. His heart became even more resolute. Without any hesitation, he flew close to the surface of the sea. Although he wasn't sure if the two old devils would kill all of them, one thing was certain. These two old demons were definitely targeting the Louvre. The battle between the two of them was just a facade. Their goal was to damage the Louvre's reputation and reputation. Therefore, if he continued to travel with the powerhouses of the Louvre, he would be courting death. He could only walk the rest of the way by himself and fly to the spatial city. They were not far away from the interspatial city. If Luli flew at full speed, he could be as fast as a battleship. If he took the god boat, he would be even faster. Of course, Luli was not that stupid. Taking the Godspeed boat would be suicidal. He planned to fly to the spatial city in a low-key manner. It didn't matter if it took some time. Safety first. Luli flew for more than 2 hours in one go. He was relieved after he was sure that nobody was chasing after him. It seemed that the two old demons weren't going to kill everyone. They were just targeting the Louvre. Splash! From the distance, waves surged in. Along with the waves, there was a white cold current. Luli flew up in a hurry. He didn't dare to touch the cold current. It was said that it was very powerful. Once he was enveloped by the cold current, he could be turned into an ice sculpture. After another 2 hours, Luli took out a chariot. It was not very fast, even slower than a battleship. Luli felt flying like this was too boring. He would rather cultivate while sitting on the chariot. It was slower, but he had something to do. Whoosh! Luli flew the chariot to the sky and then flew straight to the north at full speed. This way, he would be more conspicuous. He couldn't care less. If someone wanted to kill him, he could find them even if he was flying close to the surface of the sea. Luli didn't even need to control the chariot to fly in a straight line. He observed for a moment to make sure that he wouldn't be enveloped by the cold current at this height. He asked Blood Fairy to monitor the surroundings in case the chariot would land in the base of a force or crash into an island. Blood Fairy was good at monitoring. Luli was not worried at all. He continued to cultivate in peace. The chariot whooshed on. In merely half a day, Luli encountered someone. "Master, something is up ahead. I think someone is fighting," Blood Fairy said. Luli opened his eyes and used psychic power to check at once. A moment later, he was relieved. It seemed that two groups were fighting, but there were not many powerful warriors. The most powerful one was only at the later stage of the Fifth Tribulation, and there were only a dozen Fifth Tribulation warriors. "Let's go." Luli put away the chariot and took a detour. He didn't want to get involved in the fight. He just wanted to fly to the spatial city in peace. Whoosh! He had just flown for several thousand miles when he saw a dozen people coming from the battlefield. In the front was a Fifth Tribulation warrior. The dozen or so people were covered in blood, and their faces were filled with fear. Clearly, the fight had come to an end. One side was defeated. Luli frowned. He wondered if he should speed up and leave right away. But given the chaotic situation nearby, Luli decided to keep a low profile. He flew downward, hoping that the group would not pay attention to him. When the group flew over his head, a warrior at the peak of the Fourth Tribulation threw Luli a glance. The warrior was filled with killing intent and hacked at Luli with his saber. Courting death, Luli was enraged. He was just a passerby, and he appeared to be only at the initial stage of the Fourth Tribulation. Those people were in a frenzy, and they would not let him go. Whoosh! Luli thought it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. He turned around and moved to the side to avoid that ray of sword light. Those people were in a hurry to escape. They would not be relentless, would they? Luli's dodging caught the attention of the warrior at the initial stage of the Fifth Tribulation. The warrior threw Luli a glance and shouted coldly, "Kill him!" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than a dozen people took actions at the same time and launched all kinds of attacks at Luli. Luli was enraged. He released the dragon skill and the heaven armor skill. Holding the soft sword, he withstood the attacks and then flew up. "Since you're courting death, I will send you on your way." Chapter 25:38. Under the influence of Luli's wrath, the warrior suffered. That warrior of the Fifth Tribulation was struck. Then, Luli left him alone and continued to punch at the warrior of the Fourth Tribulation. Given his current physical strength, he could kill a warrior of the Fourth Tribulation with one punch. It was too easy. Run. As a matter of fact, when they were attacking Luli, he didn't suffer any injury. They were disappointed. But since Luli had come, they had no other choice but to fight. The result was that the more than a dozen warriors were all killed by Luli. The warrior of the Fifth Tribulation died a miserable death after his head was smashed. Whoosh whoosh! From the distance, dozens of warriors were flying over. Seeing Luli was fighting with a group of warriors, they were ready to charge over with killing intent. However, on the way, they saw Luli killing that warrior of the Fifth Tribulation easily. They were all frightened. They all turned around and fled to another direction. Luli put away all the interspatial rings and flew into the distance quickly. He didn't want to get involved in the fight. He just wanted to fly to the spatial city in peace. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Luli noticed something was wrong again. A battleship came from the right. Luli noticed some psychic powers were locked on him. Then, the battleship turned around and flew toward him. Luli pulled a long face. He was relieved to find that there were only 4 warriors of the Fifth Tribulation, and they were all at the initial stage or middle stage. Clearly, this was the team that started the fight just now. They were chasing after the fleeing warriors and mistook Luli for a deserter. Luli didn't know what to do. That being said, Apart from taking out the God speedboat and running away, he had to fight. He didn't want to expose the God speedboat, which would cause more trouble. He stood in midair, waiting for the warriors to come up. He took out the horn. Now that he had decided to fight, he didn't want to let any of them go. He wanted to kill them all. The horn was an ancient artifact. The information about this artifact could not be known. Once he used it, Luli planned to kill all of them. Whoosh! The battleship stopped 30 miles in front of Luli. More than a dozen warriors flew off, all of them at the fourth tribulation. None of them were at the fifth tribulation. Clearly, they were looking down on Luli. I'm just passing by. I don't want to have any conflict with you. Please don't make a mistake. Luli shouted. The more than a dozen warriors were stunned for a moment, and then they laughed. How could a warrior at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation talk like this? Isn't he a little too arrogant? Who does he think he is? The dozen or so players didn't say a word. They all flew towards Luli and didn't release any long-range attacks. Instead, they locked onto Luli with their weapons. Luli put away his horn and didn't release any special attacks. He just waved his fists and started fighting. Boom! Luli withstood the attacks and punched at a warrior's head. The powerful force surged in, and that warrior's soul was shattered. Luli kept on punching. The attacks from more than a dozen people landed on him, but he didn't suffer any damage. The more than a dozen people were all killed with each punch. The people in the warship were somewhat dumbfounded. Could it be that this early stage fourth tribulation had hidden his strength? That being said, judging from Li's attack and the vibration of divine energy, he was at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. Was this person's body made of cold iron? Whoosh, 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 dozens of people in the warship flew out. The four fifth tribulation experts came out in full force. Other than 3 people who stayed behind to guard the warship, everyone else came out. They gathered around Li, but were not in a hurry to take action. A warrior of the fifth tribulation stared at Li and asked, "Who are you? Do you want to make an enemy out of the heaven frigid palace?" Li replied coldly, "Didn't you hear what I said? I was just passing by. It was your people who started the fight. Do you want me to wait for my death?" "No matter what," the warrior of the fifth tribulation said coldly, "you have killed our people. You must give us an explanation. What do you want?" Li didn't want to fight if he could avoid it. It seemed that the heaven frigid palace was a big force. That warrior of the fifth tribulation thought about it and said, "How about this? You give us 500 billion divine stones, and we will let you go. In this way, I can explain to the palace." Oh, the horn appeared in Li's hand. He grinned coldly and said, "How about this? Give me 1 trillion divine stones, and I will spare your lives." Ha ha ha. The warrior of the fifth tribulation laughed. Li didn't waste any more time. It seemed that there was no way to negotiate. Then fight. He activated the horn, then put it to his mouth and blew it. The warriors of the fifth tribulation sensed something was wrong as soon as Li activated the horn. The energy of the horn was suffocating. As soon as the horn sounded, they felt something was off. Hundreds of millions of soul needles swarmed toward them. Apart from the warriors of the fifth tribulation, the others held their heads and screamed in pain. There were also low-level fourth tribulation martial artists who tumbled down. Their souls directly collapsed, and they instantly died. Soon, the warriors of the fifth tribulation could not stand it anymore. One of them rolled around while holding his head and yelling, "Lord, please spare us. We are wrong. The heaven frigid palace will compensate you. Lord, our master is friends with the patriarch of the Hall of Ascending Heaven." Even if you don't want to respect the heaven frigid palace, you must show some respect to the Hall of Ascending Heaven. Hall of Ascending Heaven. Li curled his lips. He knew about the Hall of Ascending Heaven, one of the 4 forces in the Frigid Sea area. But the heaven frigid palace was only friends with the patriarch of the Hall of Ascending Heaven. What was the big deal? Li wasted no more time. He flew over like a mad dragon. The relic iron appeared in his hand, and he smashed at the head of a warrior of the fifth tribulation. Boom, boom. After 2 strikes of the relic iron, the warrior of the fifth tribulation died. Li flew to the other warrior. After 2 strikes, the other warrior of the 5th tribulation died as well. Luli didn't dare to use the relic iron to attack the remaining 2. Every time he used the relic iron, it would consume a lot of divine energy. He didn't have that much divine energy. He didn't have to worry about the warriors of the 4th tribulation. Most of them would die. It would be a waste of time to kill the rest. What was more important was the 2 warriors of the 5th tribulation. The 2 were more clear-headed now. They were considering whether to run away or fight to the death with Luli. But Luli blew the horn again. The 2 fell into the trap again. Boom, boom, boom. Luli grabbed one by the neck and smashed at the warrior with one hand. After dozens of punches, the warrior's soul was shattered. The other one was easier to deal with. Those were patriarchs of small forces. They didn't have particularly powerful skills. They were weak warriors of the 5th tribulation. For Luli, they didn't feel much pressure. Boom! When the last one was killed, a strand of his remnant soul came out and said to Luli in a vicious tone, "Punk, I have sent the information back. Our master will come to hunt you down in person. Just wait to come down and join us." Slap! Luli slapped him and shattered the remnant soul. Luli was not worried about this man's threat. It was just a small force. The most powerful master of the sect would be at the peak of the 5th tribulation. There shouldn't be any lord. What was more, he could change his looks and chi and energy at any time. It would be difficult for the heaven frigid palace to find him. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli killed everyone. He collected their interspatial rings and left, leaving many bodies floating in the sea. Chapter 25:39. Luli changed his looks twice along the way. In the end, he became a strong middle-aged man wearing armor. Apart from his face, there was no flesh on his body. He did not ride the chariot anymore. Instead, he flew on his own and used a trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. Once he sensed any noise, he would hide or take a detour. Though the Heaven Frigid Palace was not a major force, Luli decided to be careful. Those who underestimated heroes would not end well. They might die miserably. Luli flew for 3.5 days. He ran into people often, but he avoided them all in advance. He found a small island with a big city on it. The city occupied a small half of the island. It could be said to be a very large city. Luli did not go in rashly. Instead, he circled around the island. He saw many battleships and people going in and out. He flew down and arrived at the city. City of Ivory. He asked around and was relieved. This was the territory of Prefecture of Nature, one of the 4 forces in the Frigid Sea. The city had nothing to do with the Heaven Frigid Palace. Master of the Heaven Frigid Palace would not dare to make a move even if he came here. Entering the city cost 1 billion divine stones. Luli paid the divine stones and entered the city. He was even more relieved after he walked around the city. He was in a better mood when he learned that the City of Ivory also had a city with battleships. Flying alone was prone to accidents. Undoubtedly, it would be safer and more comfortable to ride on the battleships of major forces. He did not lack divine stones. Why would he take the risk? The only thing that bothered him was that the first battleship had just departed 2 days ago, and the following ones would depart in a month. Therefore, Luli had to stay in the city for a month. Normally, this would not be a problem. However, the Heaven Frigid Palace might be hunting him down. Luli was worried. Back when he was at the Silver Scorching Sea, he lived in the city as well. In the end, the Wu family took action in the city as well. That being said, the Heaven Frigid Palace was not as powerful as the Wu family, and there were no soul chasers here. Luli was relieved. Luli found a tavern to cultivate. At the same time, he built some runes so that Blood Fairy could keep an eye on him. Half a month passed. Everything had been peaceful. Nothing happened, which put Li's mind at ease. Master, something is wrong in the city. 19 days later, Blood Fairy sent a message, which made Li's heart skip a beat. If something happened again, it would be a headache. He hurriedly used his divine telekinesis to investigate, and soon, a look of astonishment appeared on his face. It wasn't that someone wanted to attack him, but that countless people in the city were flying towards the northwest. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of people had flown out. There were many people in this city, and there were many experts as well. The population was estimated to be over 5 million, and from the looks of it, hundreds of thousands of people would fly out. Because there were still many people in the castle continuously rising into the sky, flying towards the northwest. Let's go out and have a look. Luli was curious. What was going on with so many people flying out? Luli walked out of the castle and asked a waiter a few questions. The waiter understood some of the situation and replied, "It said that there's a heavenly phenomenon thousands of miles away in the northwest. It said that there are auspicious clouds covering the sky and seawater hitting the sky. Countless sea beasts are gathering there. It's very likely that a great treasure has appeared." Great treasure? Luli curled his lips in disbelief. How could there be abnormal phenomena in heaven and earth when a treasure appeared? Would a supreme expert breakthrough? Or would there be a Lord Realm or a great Emperor Realm warrior? Whoosh, 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 more and more warriors were flying out from the city. Luli decided to go and have a look. With so many people flying over, nobody would notice him unless they were going to fight for the treasure. He was just going to have a look, not to fight for anything. Nobody would notice a warrior at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation, right? Luli flew up and followed a group of people to the northwest. This group of people formed a long line and flew towards the northwest in a mighty manner. Many people were discussing as they flew. Luli listened attentively to the discussions. Most of what they said was basically just rumors. Nobody had been there yet. They were just listening to the information sent back by the scouts. Many people spoke in a methodical manner. They said that some people saw a shocking phenomenon in the sea over there. Heaven and earth were illuminated by divine light, and waves of strange fragrance wafted out. Luli was dubious about the rumors. He followed them. It didn't take him long to cover the distance of thousands of miles. He could see from the distance that there were many people gathered there, and he could not hear any exclamations. Luli looked into the distance. There were auspicious clouds and rays of light. When the rays of light fell down, the seawater was tumbling up. Even though he was far away, he could smell the strange fragrance coming from the sea. Luli turned to the area where people were gathered. There was a huge whirlpool in the middle of the sea. It looked like the mouth of a huge beast that was going to devour everything. Luli looked around. He noticed that many people had come, about 200,000 or 300,000 in total. Many powerful warriors were here. Fifth Tribulation warriors could be seen everywhere. Luli even suspected that some of the old demons were at the Lord level. Everyone's eyes looked towards the huge whirlpool because the strange fragrance came from the whirlpool, and the divine light above also shot into the whirlpool. If there was a strange treasure appearing, it would definitely fly out from the whirlpool. Why didn't anyone go down to check? Luli was confused, but he understood after he took a closer look. The whirlpool was surrounded by cold currents. Those cold currents were moving along with the whirlpool. Many cold currents were sucked into the bottom of the sea. Well, there are powerful beasts down there. Luli's expressions changed. The seawater restricted psychic power. Luli's psychic power could only cover an area with a radius of several hundred miles. That being said, he could feel the suffocating energy coming from the bottom of the sea. The water was still tumbling. Average sea beasts would not be able to make such big waves. Luli was curious. There must be something strange going on with such a phenomenon and so many powerful beasts. But he did not know what it was exactly. Luli did not intend to take the treasures. He was just here to enjoy the show. There were so many people here, all kinds of people. A warrior at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation would not attract any attention. As long as he did not go for the treasures, who would pay attention to him? Splash, splash, splash. The whirlpool was growing turbulent. Rays of divine light entered the whirlpool. The strange fragrance in the air was growing stronger. Right at that moment, a surge of divine energy spread out from the bottom of the sea. The divine energy enveloped everyone, making their souls tremble. Oh no! Everyone felt uneasy. Luli sensed something was wrong at once. He said to himself that he could not stay here any longer. He mobilized divine energy and flew back. However, A surge of suction force came from the whirlpool, affecting everyone. Luli and many others who were trying to run were all dragged into the whirlpool by the strong force. Chapter 2540. Everyone felt they were being pulled by a strong force. They tried to struggle and get rid of it, but it was like they were in a quagmire, sinking deeper and deeper. They kept moving toward the vortex. Many people near the vortex had been sucked in. Luli forced himself to calm down. He drew a formation in the air, trying to fly away. Clearly, he was overthinking. The space was not stable in this situation. He could not fly away. Buzzing, Luli made up his mind. He took out the god boat and hopped in. Then he activated the god boat at once, trying to use its speed to break free from the suction force and escape. The god boat was fast. If he could fly normally, he could be out in the time for one breath. But soon, Luli was speechless. It was not that the godly speedboat couldn't be started. The godly speedboat felt like it was flying, but it was as slow as a snail. The suction force seemed to be getting stronger, and the trip to the great land could not get rid of it. Never mind. Luli watched as he was getting closer and closer to the vortex. He looked around and realized that no one could get out. He sighed. He had to accept his fate. He suspected that 3 of them were Lord Realm warriors. If they could not get rid of the suction force as well, what was the point of struggling? So many people were sucked in, including Lord Realm warriors. Luli thought, what was the big deal if he could get in? With so many powerful warriors, they could find a way out. Even if there were powerful monsters in there, they could kill them all. Whoosh! Luli was sucked in along with the others. Luli felt dizzy. He didn't know how long he had been spinning before he finally fell into the ground. He felt like he had hit a bunch of people, and then he felt like he was hit by a few more people. He felt dizzy. He closed his eyes and rested for a while, not caring that he was being pressed down. He felt refreshed. He tried to use psychic power at once, but it was restricted. **T. He cursed himself. He hated things that restricted psychic power. It made him feel like he was blind. It was not a good feeling. He didn't move around. Instead, he used the mark of Tao to sense the surroundings. After a while, he put on a bitter expression. Even though he had expected this, he still felt a headache. At this moment, they were in a strange world. This world felt very ancient, and there was an ancient aura inside. However, the heaven and earth spiritual chi was very dense. The surroundings were filled with people, like a swarm of bees. Many of them were gathered together, but there was no sign of panic on their faces. Instead, they were filled with excitement and agitation. However, there were also people who had worried expressions on their faces. Luli listened for a while and frowned. Did someone say that divine energy could not be used here? Luli tried to mobilize divine energy at once and realized that he could not. As soon as the divine energy came out from the pellet, it was messed up. There seemed to be an invisible force field here that could mess up a warrior's divine energy. Xiao! Luli pushed the people around him away. Then, he leaped into the crowd and stood in the middle of the crowd. He didn't say anything and just stood there quietly. His heart calmed down a little. No matter what, 200,000 to 300,000 people had come in, and there were many experts among them. Even if the sky collapsed, there would be tall people to support it. If he followed the crowd, he would definitely be able to find a way out. What surprised Luli was that this was a strange small world. How could this small world cause such abnormal phenomena? There was no whirlpool in the ocean before. Why did a whirlpool suddenly appear? And it was the entrance to this small world. Even if there was an entrance out of nowhere, why would it cause abnormal phenomena? Luli could not figure it out, and neither could many others. If this small world was so strange, then there might be valuable treasures in it. One look, and Luli could tell that this was an ancient world. The heaven and earth spiritual chi was so dense that there must be some elixirs in it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The people who came in earlier had already begun to gather together, and some of them had already begun to explore their surroundings. They were in a desert. In the distance, they could see a forest. There might be elixirs in the forest. Brother, an old man suddenly walked to Luli and whispered, "Now that we are here, we should stick together. Come with us." We have a patriarch of the Feng family who is at the peak of the fifth tribulation. If you come with us, you will be safe." With that said, the old man looked to the left. Luli looked over and saw that there were nearly 1,000 people there. There should be more than a dozen fifth tribulation warriors. There were more people trying to recruit people. Luli glanced around and found that there were still many teams trying to recruit people. Their intentions were clear. This world seemed to be boundless. Nobody could tell how big it was or if there were any dangers in it. Even if there were no dangers, the fact was that so many people had come in this time. There would be fights over treasures and elixirs. The more people there were, the more chances of survival would be. Luli was not in a hurry to say yes. Since he was going with a boss, then he must go with someone more powerful. It was likely that there would be lords coming in this time. If the lord was willing to gather people, Luli would be happy to go with him. There were 3 people who were suspected to be lords. Clearly, they were not in the same group. They were standing in different directions. There were many warriors of the fifth tribulation around them. Luli saw that the warriors of the fifth tribulation treated them with respect. He was even more certain that the 3 were lords. Luli turned down the old man's invitation and walked over to one of the lords. He saw many people were gathering there. Luli could tell from some people's whispers that this man was a famous warrior nearby. That being said, this old warrior was kind to people, and he would give advice to the younger generation every now and then. Many people had a good impression of him. Luli walked over and said nothing. He just stood there quietly. Luli listened to the conversation between the people nearby and the old warrior and learned that the old warrior's nickname was Recluse Cold Mountain. He was dressed like an enlightened warrior, wearing a Taoist robe, holding a palm leaf fan in his hand and smiling. "Recluse, should we go and gather some people?" "That's right. With your reputation, I believe many people would be willing to follow you. This world is strange. There must be many dangers in it. I think it is better to go and gather some people. They could be the vanguard for you." A group of people said to Recluse Cold Mountain with a smile. Recluse Cold Mountain thought about it and said, "Okay, go and gather them. I will only wait for an hour. After that, I will go and explore this world." "Okay." Chapter 2541. A group of people immediately went to make arrangements. Luli was also assigned to recruit people. Luli didn't mind. He wandered around and shouted. He didn't have to spend much effort. Many came willingly. After all, Recluse Cold Mountain was famous. Luli asked around, and at the same time, he learned about the other 2 lords. One of them was the great patriarch of Elephant Mansion, Lord Xiang Xiong. Lord Xiang Xiong's appeal was stronger than that of Recluse Cold Mountain. Many had come to the Ivory City to begin with. Everyone knew Lord Xiang Xiong, and they were happy to follow him. Lord Xiang Xiong had gathered almost 40 or 50,000 warriors with many powerful ones. He must be the most powerful of all the warriors that had come in. There were quite a number of fifth tribulation experts here. There were at least 1,000 of them. The other leader was also an old warrior. His nickname was Mad Demon. He was famous for being a ferocious man. Because of his ferocious reputation, many people were willing to follow him. There were already 10 or 20,000 warriors here. In an hour, Recluse Cold Sky had gathered more than 10,000 warriors. Recluse Cold Sky didn't want to wait any longer. He waved his hand and led the others forward. They were moving toward the west because nobody was going there. Luli believed that the other 2 lords would lead their warriors in other directions as well. The lords wouldn't have conflicts unless there was a big interest. Their divine energy was messed up so they could not fly. They had to walk on foot. This world was strange. Fifth Tribulation Warriors' divine energy was messed up. They could only use 30 to 40% of their abilities. What about the lords? Therefore, they were careful and moved in groups. They were afraid that if something serious happened, they would all die without a burial place. They didn't dare to move too fast. Some of them even went ahead to explore. After hundreds of thousands of miles, the view changed. There was a forest. Recluse Cold Sky stopped. He waved his hand and said, "Lu, take some people with you and have a look. I think there is some elixir here." "Okay." A warrior at the peak of the fifth tribulation realm's eyes glowed. He asked the others to go in at once. Many others walked into the forest without being asked. Who would want elixir? Thousands of people rushed into the forest at once. Most of them were Fourth Tribulation warriors. Who would want elixir? Many of them moved quickly as if they were afraid that others would take the elixir. Everyone be careful. Patron Cold Mountain shouted, and those who had entered the forest immediately slowed down. However, after inspecting the forest for a moment and finding no abnormalities, they relaxed. There's a divine medicine. Suddenly, a cry of surprise came from inside, and the people outside who were hesitating immediately rushed in. However, there were still a few thousand people who didn't move. Luli was one of them. He had been following Hermit Cold Mountain for more than 1,000 feet. He didn't even look at the forest. He just sat on the ground with his legs crossed. Before he was absolutely sure of his safety, Luli would not take any reckless actions. He was not interested in some elixirs. Safety first. He had a strange feeling about this world. He had a feeling that something big was about to happen. The vision in heaven and earth had been lingering in Luli's mind. He didn't believe that this was just a small world. Run! Run! All of a sudden, some miserable cries came from the forest along with many exclamations. Luli and the others stood up at once. Everyone nearby was on high alert. Cold Mountain Hermit furrowed his brows even more, but he didn't move. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A group of people flew out in fear. Many of them were injured. Some of them had tiny arrowheads stuck in their bodies. Someone shouted from afar, "Sir, there are people inside. There are barbarians, powerful barbarians. Go and help them, or more than half of them will die." Savages? Luli and the others outside were taken aback. It would be fine if there were monsters and beasts, but there were savages? Or a very powerful barbarian? Fourth Tribulation warriors, stay here. Fifth Tribulation warriors, follow me. Hermit Cold Mountain waved his fan and shouted. The Fifth Tribulation warriors outside hesitated for the time, for one breath, before they all followed Hermit Cold Mountain into the forest. Luli followed after some thoughts, which surprised some people. But they didn't care if Luli wanted to court death. Know thyself and thy enemy, and you will never be defeated. Since there were indigenous people here, powerful ones at that, Luli naturally wanted to have a look. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. After all, Hermit Cold Mountain and the others were at the front. Luli was just checking from behind. The forest was lush. The trees were in the shape of umbrellas with bare trunks at the bottom and dense branches and leaves at the top. Therefore, the light in the forest was dim. The branches and leaves had blocked out the sky. Luli rushed in as well. There were more people coming out from the forest, and they were all Fourth Tribulation warriors. He could hear some explosions in the distance. There must be warriors of the Fifth Tribulation fighting with indigenous savages. Divine energy was messed up, but they were not slow. In the time for a dozen breaths, they had arrived at the battlefield. It was a mess. Many trees were cut down, and there were deep ravines on the ground. There were many bodies. At least 3,000 or 4,000 had died. That Fifth Tribulation warrior, named by Hermit Cold Mountain, was leading a group of Fifth Tribulation warriors to fight against some monsters. That was right. Luli's first impression was that they were monsters, not savages. There were many dwarf-like humans over there. They were short, but their bodies were thick. Their hands and feet were thick, and their bodies were covered in long, black hair. Even their faces had sparse, long hair. They were wearing leather pants and had a kind of white bone bow in their hands. They were fast and agile. They could climb up trees and dig into the ground like marmots. The sky was filled with white arrows. The white arrows were glowing. Luli saw a warrior of the Fifth Tribulation being shot through. It was horrifying to see a warrior of the Fifth Tribulation pierced through. There were thousands of indigenous savages, but some of them were killed. Lu and the others were mainly relying on treasures to attack. Their divine energy was messed up. Many powerful fundamental meanings and skills could not be used. They had to try their best to use treasures to attack. The indigenous savages were strong as well. Some treasures could only injure them, but not kill them. The injured barbarians either ran to the top of the tree to escape or drilled into the ground and disappeared. Charge! Recluse Cold Mountain rushed over with his team. He waved his fan and swept it across a savage's neck. A head flew up at once. Recluse Cold Mountain killed a savage in an instant. The other powerful warriors were cheered up. With the help of a lord, it would be much easier to defeat the savages. At the very least, there wouldn't be too many casualties. Whoosh! Luli hid behind a tree when he heard some noises coming from his left. He had been using the Trace of Tao. Without any hesitation, he used the dragon-absorbing skill and punched at the left. Bang! A white bone arrow bumped against Luli's fist. Luli trembled, and the white bone arrow was knocked away. Luli glanced over coldly. One of the wild men caught Luli's glance and flew up to the tree in a hurry. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. From the leaves on the tree, white arrows flew out continuously towards Luli. Luli swung his fist and smashed away the white arrows one by one. Recluse Cold Mountain continued to take the lives of the barbarians one by one. He threw Luli a look of surprise. Just now, Luli had caught his attention when he was following Recluse Cold Mountain. Inevitably, Recluse Cold Mountain's curiosity was piqued when he saw Luli fending off the white arrows. But Recluse Cold Mountain didn't mind after a quick glance. Everyone had their own unique skills. It was not surprising that so many people had come this time. Let's go. Chapter 2542. Luli stepped back quietly. The warriors outside were in a defensive formation. Many of the injured were in the middle, tending to their wounds. Luli stepped back and sat on the ground. He used the Trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. Be careful underground. After a moment, Luli had an idea. He yelled, "Barbarians are coming out from underground." As soon as Luli shouted, the ground around them began to crack. Following that, many barbarians came out. White bone arrows rained down from the sky. Despite Luli's warning, many were hit at once. Thousands of barbarians came out, and they all shot out white arrows at the same time. The barbarians had nowhere to run, and they had to face the attacks head-on. If divine energy could be used here, Luli believed that it would be a piece of cake to suppress the barbarians. They could wipe them out easily. The divine power was in chaos, causing everyone's speed, attack power, and defense power to be greatly reduced. Not everyone had precious treasures. Luli punched and smashed away more than a dozen white arrows. He glanced around, and his heart sank. Of the tens of thousands of people gathered here, 2,000 to 3,000 had died in just one round of attacks. Including those who had died in the forest just now, the number of dead had now reached 6,000 to 7,000. The number of casualties would probably increase. Let's go and attack them at close range. Someone shouted. Some warriors of the Fifth Tribulation dashed over. Since the barbarians were using long-range attacks, it would be better for them to get close. Charge! Many people shouted and dashed toward the barbarians. Otherwise, they would only be sitting ducks and would be killed by the white arrows. Faced with the threat of death, all of them became frenzied and dashed forward. This move threw the formation of the barbarians into chaos. The two sides began to fight at close range. Some of the barbarians put away their bone bows and took out some white bone sticks. There were also some barbarians who rushed underground, emerging from the ground in the distance and continuing to fire from afar. The close combat attacks of the barbarians were much weaker. Many barbarians were killed, but even more cultivators were killed. Some of the barbarians kept shooting arrows from afar. The battle lasted for the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, and it ended when Hermit Cold Mountain led his men out. The barbarians seemed to be quite intelligent. When they saw Hermit Cold Mountain and the others rushing out, a tall barbarian roared. Then, all the other barbarians rushed into the ground and disappeared. Hermit Cold Mountain did not bring anyone with him to chase after him. Spiritual wool could not be used here, and it would be even more dangerous for him to go underground. Scholar Cold Mountain only ordered everyone to stay where they were and treat their wounds. He also ordered them to bury the dead. This time, it could be said that there were heavy casualties. There were originally more than 16,000 people on this side, but now there were less than 7,000 left. Nearly 10,000 people had died. This was the first time they had clashed with the barbarians. Moreover, the barbarians had sent out less than 10,000 people. This was a huge defeat. The main reason for their defeat was that they could not use too much divine power in this place. As a result, their battle prowess was severely reduced. Even Hermit Cold Mountain himself said that he could only use 30% to 40% of his battle prowess. The barbarians' method of attack was simple, but very effective. There were too many Fourth Tribulation martial artists on this side, and they were too densely packed together. The penetrative power of the small white bone arrows was also very strong. Just a random shot, and someone would be hit. Looking at the dead, the survivors were filled with misery, as if they could see their future. Needless to say, the other teams must have been attacked by the barbarians. Of the 200,000 to 300,000 warriors that came in, more than half would die soon and stay in this strange world forever. The dead had passed away. The survivors had to move on. After several hours of healing, Hermit Cold Mountain ordered them to move on. If they were to stay here, it would be more troublesome if they were ambushed by the barbarians. Luli had been keeping a low profile. He didn't use too much strength even when he attacked the barbarians. If he were to stand out too much and be targeted by the powerful barbarians, he would die a miserable death. Luli had been moving forward in the middle of the army, constantly using the trace of Tao to sense in case the barbarians would sneak up on him. Luli's mind was weighed down as well. He had thought that with so many powerful warriors, they could get through all the dangers easily. Little did he expect that so many would die at once. Luli did not have much confidence that they could make it out alive. If everyone could use divine energy, then they could sweep across the small world as lords. Clearly, that was not possible now. Luli had been to many dangerous places and had been through many dangerous situations. But he did not give up. These barbarians had not made him despair yet. He would see how things went. The team moved on. Half a day later, they came across some forests. None of them dared to go into the forest now. There were elixirs in the forests, but was life more important than elixirs? In the forests, the barbarians were like fish in water. Once they snuck into the leaves, it was difficult to catch them. If they were in the wilderness, they would be much safer as long as they could sense the underground. For the next half a day, they didn't run into any danger. No more barbarians came to attack. Most of their wounds were almost healed. They were a bit calmer now. Another half a day later, they saw a lake. Hermit Cold Mountain thought about it and told them to set up camp here and take a break. They would discuss what to do next. They sat with their legs crossed nearby. Many went to the lake to clean their wounds. Some even jumped into the lake, trying to vent their anger and frustration. However, many who touched the water began to cry out in pain. The hundreds who jumped into the lake all rolled around and screamed in pain. Then their bodies began to rot. There is poison in the lake. Everyone was shocked. Many felt lucky that they didn't go into the water. Hermit Cold Mountain pulled a long face because he was the one who gave the order to set up camp by the lake. This damn place. Luli was shocked as well. They must be more careful in this place. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. Those who went into the water all turned into bones. Those who were cleaned in the water fared better. They cut off their skin and flesh in time so that the poison wouldn't corrode their bodies. Someone is coming. They sat with their legs crossed for a while. They heard footsteps coming from the distance. They checked and were relieved to make sure that they were warriors that came in together. It's Mad Mosey and the others. Many of them have died as well. Soon, they could see the warriors. Someone recognized that one of them was Mad Mosey, a Lord-level warrior. There used to be more than 20,000 warriors on his side. Now, there were less than 10,000 left. Many others were injured. Some had broken limbs. Some had bloody holes on their bodies. "We are in big trouble," Luli murmured. The barbarians were attacking from several sides. Just the first few rounds of attacks had already caused great casualties. After a while, how many of the 200,000 or 300,000 warriors would be left? Could they all make it out in the end? Chapter 25:43. The Mad Demon Prince didn't come, and neither did Hermit Cold Mountain. The two seemed to be not on good terms in the past. That being said, the others went to talk to each other. The situation was not good. The Mad Demon Prince was attacked by more than 20,000 barbarians. Along the way, they saw thousands of people had died tragically. Many places must have been attacked by barbarians. How many barbarians were there in the world? Were there more powerful ones that had not been sent out yet? Was there a dynasty of barbarians here? Were there tens of millions of barbarians? If there were more than millions of barbarians, then the ending that awaited them would not be pretty. Apart from some powerful warriors, none of the others would survive. Especially those ordinary Fourth Tribulation martial artists, they would probably end up as skeletons in the end. When the news spread out, panic began to spread. Many people were discussing, but who could come up with a solution? There was only one thing to do, to find an exit as soon as possible. Hermit Cold Mountain, Lu, and the other powerful warriors could kill the barbarians easily. But how many barbarians could they kill? The barbarians here came and went without a trace. Could some powerful warriors defeat the indigenous barbarians? Also, they had just arrived, and the barbarians had organized a strong attack from several sides at the same time. It meant that the barbarians knew the situation here like the back of their hand. They also had powerful armies and very precise organizational skills. This was only the first wave of attacks, and it wouldn't be long before the second and third wave of attacks came. For the indigenous barbarians, Luli was an outsider, an intruder. They would not accept any compromise or negotiation unless they could defeat the indigenous barbarians. Hermit Cold Mountain asked someone to rest for half a day, and then he moved on with his team. From the beginning to the end, he didn't talk to the Mad Demon Prince at all, nor did he intend to work together. The others did hope that the two powerful warriors could stay together. It would be safer for everyone. But Hermit Cold Mountain was leaving. What could they do? They could either go with him or join the Mad Demon Prince's side. Everyone chose to go with Hermit Cold Mountain. After all, they had been following him, and Hermit Cold Mountain would try his best to help them when they were in danger. Many people had died on the Mad Demon Prince's side as well. Was it safe to go there? Not necessarily. Everyone advanced in silence. Everyone's expressions were very serious, and they were constantly paying attention to the situation nearby, especially the situation underground. They had to prevent any sneak attacks from the savages. This time, after traveling for half a day, they did not encounter any danger, nor did they see a single savage. Instead, they encountered some low-level ferocious beasts, which were easily killed. What's that? After traveling for another half a day, someone cried out in surprise. The people in front had all climbed up a large mountain, and the people who were climbing up the mountain all stopped, their faces filled with shock. Luli followed them and sped up. He looked into the distance. After a few glances, he was shocked as well. In the distance, Luli saw a cluster of stone forts. They were not big, but there were so many of them that he could not see the end of them. There must be at least tens of thousands of stone forts. At this moment, there was an orderly group of savages standing outside the stone fort. All of them held white bones in their hands and carried small white bone bows on their backs. At a glance, there were at least 30 to 40,000 people. They were standing in an orderly manner, waiting for the crowd. These indigenous people looked like savages, but they were well-trained like human armies. Tens of thousands of them stood in an orderly manner without making any noise. They gave off a sense of solemnity and oppression. They had learned how powerful these savages were. Therefore, when faced with tens of thousands of savages, their hearts trembled. Many of them wanted to turn around and run. "Don't panic," Recluse Cold Mountain shouted. He knew very well that if they were to run now, their formation would be disrupted and many would be killed. Once the morale of the warriors dropped and their formation was disrupted, they would lose half of the battle. Recluse Cold Mountain's shout cheered them up. They took out their weapons and got into formation. Recluse Cold Mountain glanced over and said, "Who knows the ancient language? Go and talk to them and see if we can coexist peacefully. Tell them that we mean no harm and that we came in by accident. We will leave as soon as we find the exit." Nobody answered Recluse Cold Mountain's words. Maybe some did, but they did not dare to take the risk. After a while, an old warrior at the peak of the Fourth Tribulation said, I know something. I will go and talk to them. Recluse, please hold the line for me. All right. Recluse Cold Mountain nodded. He looked around and said, 100 of the fifth tribulation warriors will follow them down the mountain. The rest of you, stay on the mountain and form a formation. If they want to fight, we will fight them on the mountain. Remember, we must not panic. Once we are defeated, most of you will die. Yes, everyone was clear about this. Most of them were ready for battle. Recluse Cold Mountain led the 100 warriors down slowly. None of them took out their weapons or treasures. They looked calm, showing that they meant no harm. The warrior who knew the ancient language shouted as he ran. He smiled and kept waving his hands to show his intentions. The tens of thousands of savages standing below did not move. In front of these tens of thousands of savages stood 6 stronger and taller savages. These 6 savages were expressionless. They stared coldly at Recluse Cold Mountain and the others who were walking down slowly. Recluse Cold Mountain and the others stopped halfway up the mountain. The one who shouted continued to walk to the foot of the mountain. He stood at the foot of the mountain and did not dare to move forward. He just kept shouting in the ancient language. The savages did not move. They did not even have any change in their expressions. After shouting for a while, the man looked at Recluse Cold Mountain. Recluse Cold Mountain waved his hands, indicating for the man to continue shouting. After that man shouted, the barbarians finally moved. The barbarian in the middle raised his hand and swung it down heavily. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, it was as if a rain of arrows had fallen. Thousands of savages drew their bows and shot arrows at the peak of the fourth tribulation who had shouted. That person was instantly killed. Then a man waved his hand again. Tens of thousands of savages rushed over and started to attack. Retreat to the mountain. Recluse Cold Mountain sighed helplessly. It seemed that he could not communicate with the savages. Once they encountered them, they could only fight to the death. He did not know how many of them would survive this. They would definitely lose. However, they could not run now. Otherwise, they would suffer even more casualties. They had to fight in an orderly manner while retreating slowly. That was the only way for more people to escape. Get ready to fight. Retreat as you fight. If anyone runs away, they will not need to follow me anymore. Recluse Cold Mountain shouted and flew up with his men. The others formed their own formations and waited for the savages to fly up. Recluse Cold Mountain did a good job. He led a group of powerful warriors and stood at the front. Woo woo woo, a group of savages roared and rushed up. The 6 strong savages were at the front. Their target was Recluse Cold Mountain. They were going to kill him together. Chapter 25:44. The battle lasted for 4 hours. In the end, both sides suffered heavy casualties. The outsiders retreated. Over 10,000 barbarians were killed. Lu Li's side only had about 2,000 left. If it were not for the fact that the barbarians suffered heavy casualties, the barbarians would have continued their pursuit. The main reason why the barbarians suffered heavy casualties was Recluse Cold Mountain alone. Recluse Cold Mountain alone killed 6 or 7,000 barbarians. Of the 6 powerful barbarians, Recluse Cold Mountain killed 3. Then, instead of defending, Recluse Cold Mountain chose to attack. He dashed into the group of barbarians and began his massacre. Even though Recluse Cold Mountain was strong, his side still suffered heavy casualties. It was because there were too many barbarians. It was hard to guard against them. Their divine energy was messed up. Their abilities were compromised. They could not even use their artifacts to the fullest extent. Only 2,000 survived because the warriors of the fifth tribulation were ferocious. Those warriors of the fifth tribulation did not hold back. They used their artifacts to fend off many attacks. Lu Li used his artifact as well. He took out his flying sword. He did not use the relic iron because it would be pointless. He could not use it too many times. He did not use the horn either. He was afraid that once he used it, other powerful warriors would covet it. There were many warriors of the fifth tribulation here. On the surface, Lu Li was only a warrior of the fourth tribulation. Once he used the horn, he would be targeted. The flying sword was a good artifact. It was not particularly powerful, but it was a fragment of a sovereign weapon that had been refined for many years. It was more powerful and complete than regular fragments. The flying sword danced around, shielding Lu Li from many white arrows and killing some barbarians. In this way, Lu Li could protect himself and those around him without giving himself away. They retreated for thousands of miles before the barbarians could catch up with them. Many were covered in blood and some were injured. Morale was low. At first, there were more than 16,000. Now, there were only 2,000 left. 14,000 of them would stay in this land forever. As time went on, more would pass away. They set up camp near a hill. Hermit Cold Mountain sat in a corner by himself. Lu Li used the trace of Tao to sense and found that Hermit Cold Mountain was injured, and quite badly. He had a much better impression of Cold Mountain Hermit. He had never revealed anything, and the others probably did not know that he was injured. He had killed so many barbarians by himself, yet he did not tell anyone that he was injured. Instead, he silently healed himself. Lu Li thought about it for a while. He walked over to Recluse Cold Mountain. The ring on his hand glowed as he took out some herbs. He handed them over and said, "Recluse Cold Mountain, this is a small token of my appreciation." Recluse Cold Mountain opened his eyes and looked at Lu Li in surprise. He waved his hand and said, "I have enough elixirs." "Young man, what is your name?" Lu Li thought about it. Cupping his fists, Lu Li said, "My name is Lu Li." "How thoughtful of you." Hermit Cold Mountain nodded slightly. Then he thought about it and said, "Your real battle prowess shouldn't be what you have shown on the surface, right? You cultivate a supreme divine body." Lu Li was not surprised that Recluse Cold Mountain could tell this. He nodded and said, "You have sharp eyes. As a matter of fact, you don't have to hide your strength." Recluse Cold Mountain said, "As long as you show your strength, others will respect you. Here, we are all depending on each other. We won't have any bad intentions. Also, as long as I'm alive, nobody will dare to do anything to you. Do you understand?" "Yes." Lu Li cupped his fists and stepped back. He sat down to cultivate by himself. After a day of rest, many of them had recovered. There were fewer of them, but their combat abilities were not weakened. Not many of their powerful warriors had died. "Let's go." Recluse Cold Mountain should have recovered by now. He waved his hand, and the others followed him in another direction. Lu had people spread out to check the surroundings in case of ambush. Everyone was confused. They didn't know where to go, where was the safest place, or when the barbarians would strike. Now, they had to go wherever they could and see if they could find an exit. After running for more than 8 hours, they encountered a small team of only 300 people. When that team saw them, they immediately took the initiative to join them. Their team originally had more than 4,000 people, but now there were only 300 people left. That being said, the 300 warriors were all elites. The weakest among them was at the peak of the fourth tribulation realm. They were welcomed. It was good to have powerful warriors join them. Only by working together could they have a greater chance of survival. Half a day later, the warriors found a valley. The valley was not large, but there were no barbarians living in it. A valley? Recluse Cold Mountain stopped. He thought about it and said, "How about this? You can go into the valley and cultivate for a while. I will build some divine patterns that should be able to keep you safe. I will go and explore the world on my own." Recluse Cold Mountain's words made them happy and worried at the same time. They were happy because if what Recluse Cold Mountain said was true, then they would be much safer. He could peacefully cultivate in the valley for a period of time while waiting for Hermit Cold Mountain to investigate the situation. They were worried because what if the divine patterns Recluse Cold Mountain built were not strong enough? What if the barbarians could break through the divine patterns and break into the valley? Without Recluse Cold Mountain here, they would be in a miserable state. Someone expressed his concern in a vague way. Recluse Cold Mountain said, "I will build a formation of defense and a formation of illusion. Theoretically speaking, the barbarian souls are not strong enough to see through the formation. Of course, I cannot guarantee anything. Think about it yourselves. If you're worried, you can come with me. but only warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation realm. Since Recluse Cold Mountain had said so, the others naturally agreed. Recluse Cold Mountain led them into the valley and began to build. Luli observed carefully. This was a divine pattern built by a lord. There must be something to learn. Recluse Cold Mountain built the divine patterns quickly and skillfully. Luli was dazzled, but he used a trace of great Tao to record the steps. Recluse Cold Mountain spent 2 hours and built 2 divine patterns, one for defense and the other for illusion. Luli nodded to himself. At the very least, in terms of divine patterns, Recluse Cold Mountain was better than Blood Fairy. Of course, Blood Fairy must be better at deciphering divine patterns. Luli told Blood Fairy about Hermit Cold Mountain's methods. After a while, Blood Fairy said, "Well, Hermit Cold Mountain is very skilled in divine inscriptions. Give me the diagrams of the 2 divine inscriptions. I want to study them." Luli used the trace of great Tao to check and gave the 2 diagrams to Blood Fairy. On the other side, Recluse Cold Mountain checked and nodded. "Okay, it is done. Stay in there and don't come out. If I am right, the barbarians will not be able to sense you, and they will not be able to break this plaza." Chapter 2545. Hermit Cold Mountain left. He was the only one. The others wanted to go with him, but they did not. For one thing, it was too dangerous. For another, they were afraid that Luli would be a burden. It would be more convenient and freer for him to go alone. Luli was reassured that Blood Fairy was safe. He found a corner to cultivate in peace. He told Blood Fairy to check the surroundings and secretly build some glyphs to strengthen the protection. There were so many people here. Luli believed that if there was an attack from the barbarians, they would be able to react immediately. At the very least, the Taoist Hall could withstand the attacks for a while. Some of the others found their own places to cultivate. The majority gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, discussing the small world and thinking about the future. As far as they could tell, no matter how large the small world was, Hermit Cold Mountain could come back in a month. 1 month was too short. Many people did not want to cultivate. They just waited. Luli cultivated divine energy and consumed the elixirs at the same time. He was not afraid that someone would target him. The elixirs he consumed were average ones. He did not care about the powerful warriors, and neither did he care about the low-level ones. Also, he was studying the trace of the Great Path and the Chains of Order, which would be an important breakthrough for him to improve his abilities. The Nameless Demon King said that when he could completely consume the Chains of Order, his abilities would soar. The valley was suffocating. The few female warriors here became the liveliness of the atmosphere. There were 4 or 5 female martial artists. Although they didn't look young, they were very open, and they fought passionately with the crowd. Maybe they were afraid of dying here as well. Therefore, they were fawning over some warriors of the fifth tribulation. They even took out their interspatial artifacts and invited the warriors of the fifth tribulation to have a heart-to-heart talk in private. Those fifth tribulation experts were bored to death waiting here. They simply took turns to enter these people's spatial divine tools and had a deep conversation. The Taoist hall built by Hermit Cold Mountain was impressive. They stayed in there quietly for 10 days without anything happening. Since no barbarians came to attack the valley, more warriors were relieved and went to cultivate. Hey, punk! After 17 days of closed-door cultivation, Li was targeted. 3 warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation came to him. Blood Fairy warned Li at once. Li opened his eyes. The 3 of them were staring at him as if he were a lamb. He had a bad feeling. He didn't get up. Instead, he asked coldly, "What can I do for you 3?" A wretched old man among the 3 opened his mouth. "Hee, brat, you have quite a lot of divine medicine, huh? We've seen you continuously refining them. You have so many divine medicines that you can't even finish using them. Do you want to share some with us?" Li felt disgusted, but he didn't show it. He coldly said, "Not many left. There are dozens left. Do you want me to share with you? A few dozen?" The wretched old man laughed mockingly and said, "You've refined more than 100 of them in these 10 days, right? We don't want much. How about giving each of us 100 stalks?" Luli had many elixirs with him. It was not difficult for him to give them 300. But why should he give them to the three? Moreover, if he gave them 100 stalks, would they want 200 stalks? Would there be more people asking him for it? Naturally, Luli would not say yes. He replied coldly, "If I don't give them to you, are you going to take them by force?" Luli raised his voice, which caught the attention of others nearby. That wretched old man was enraged. He slapped Luli. Though he did not use divine energy, the old man's strength was full. Luli released the skill of dragon and smashed at the old man. The old man reacted quickly. He clenched his fist and punched at Luli. Boom! Luli didn't move a bit, but the old man was smashed away like a broken sack. One of his hands was clearly broken as well. He rolled over on the ground and crawled up, courting death. The other two were enraged. They were about to take action when some warriors of the fifth tribulation looked over. One of them snorted and said, "What are you doing? Are you trying to fight among yourselves before the enemies come?" That wretched old man's hand was bleeding. He glanced over and said to the warrior of the fifth tribulation in grief and indignation, "Lord Chung, this punk stole my interspatial ring and hurt me." Luli rolled his eyes, speechless. Today, he learned what it meant to lie through one's teeth. Luli curled his lips, stood up, and said, "Old dog, don't try to fool our lords." Many people saw it. "It was the three of you who tried to rob me of my elixir. I stole your interspatial ring. Do you want me to show you the interspatial ring and see if your spiritual mark is on it?" The wretched old man snorted and said, "You stole my interspatial ring and consumed it. Of course, you don't have my spiritual mark now." "Okay." Luli took out the interspatial ring and said, "Then tell me what is in it. If you can make it clear, I will give you the interspatial ring right away. If not, then you can commit suicide as an apology." Who knows if you have moved it or not? The wretched old man wanted to argue. The warrior of the fifth tribulation waved his hand and said, "Enough. You three behave. Don't make trouble out of nothing." Lord Chung, the wretched old man, was still angry. He said, "This is a private matter between us and this punk. Let us handle it ourselves." "Oh." That Lord Chung threw Luli a glance and asked, "What do you think?" Lord Cheng's intention was clear. If Luli was confident, Lord Chung wouldn't interfere. Luli smiled, cupped his fists, and said, "Thank you, Lord Chung. Let's deal with this in private. You three want my elixir, right? Come at me. If you don't give me a warning, once you make a move, you will be responsible for your own life." There were 2,000 people in the valley, a mix of crooks and honest folk. Luli didn't want to be stared at all the time. Since the three of them were courting death, then Luli would fulfill their wish and make an example out of them. Swish, 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 many people looked over. More people gathered around. It was already depressing here. How could they miss out on a free show? Also, it was rare for a warrior at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation to fight against three warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation. "Kill him," the wretched old man said in a vicious tone. An ancient seal appeared in his hand. When he was about to activate it, Luli stomped on the ground and dashed forward like an arrow. He threw out a flying sword and aimed at the old man's left eye. Ah! The wretched old man reacted quickly. He used the stamp to bump against the flying sword. The other two released their treasures to attack Luli as well. But Luli didn't care. He approached the wretched old man quickly. He grabbed the old man's arm with one hand and punched at the old man's head with the other. Boom, boom, boom. Of course, the wretched old man wouldn't just wait for death. He fought back, but Luli ignored his attacks. He also took the attacks from the other two and punched at the old man like lightning. Boom! Chapter 25:46. Lord, we are sorry. Lord, please spare our lives. We will not do it again. Brother Jean said so. We're just following him. After the wretched old man was killed, the other two panicked. The most important thing was that they had attacked Luli several times, but Luli was not injured at all. This made the two of them feel like they were children beating a strong man with a stick. They felt powerless. This place was sealed off by runes. It was difficult for the two to get out. What was more, Luli had killed the most powerful one of them in a few moves. There was no way they could get away. If they wanted to live, they would have to beg for mercy. Luli was vexed to see so many people looking at him. His peaceful and comfortable life had been disrupted. From now on, he would be the center of attention. Now that so many people were paying attention to him, Luli decided not to hide his strength. As Recluse Cold Mountain said, "Only with absolute abilities would others be afraid of you and leave you alone." Buzzing, Luli took out his soft sword and swung it at the two warriors. Invisible sound waves spread out. The two warriors were hit at once. They rolled around on the ground, screaming miserably, but the screams did not last long. The two rolled around for a while. Then they began to bleed from their eyes, ears, noses, and mouths. They died in a miserable way. A powerful soul warrior. This time, many people saw Luli's attack. Luli just shook his sword and the two of them died a horrible death. This was definitely a powerful soul attack. The situation before and after the two of them died also proved this. Warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation were killed in an instant. Many people were looking at Luli with a meaningful look. Luli had such strong defense that warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation could not hurt him. Also, he was proficient in soul attacks. How could a warrior at the peak of the fourth tribulation kill him in an instant? Then, Luli's abilities were at least at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation, or even higher. Maybe he was a hidden, powerful warrior? Many people looked at Luli with fear. So many people had come in this time. It was understandable that there were some hidden talents. It was normal that many people had powerful means to hide. Buzzing, Luli put away the three corpses. It was not a good idea to leave them here. He could just throw them away later. Putting away the three space rings and treasures, Yang Kai found a corner to cultivate, completely ignoring the gazes of the people nearby. Many people looked at him deeply, but no one dared to cause trouble for him. By the looks of it, Luli didn't use his full strength to kill the three warriors. Who could tell how powerful Luli was? Moreover, many people actually did not have the heart to fight. After all, they were all in the same boat. If they were not careful, they might all die in the end. What was the point of fighting now? If one more person died, their overall strength would decrease, and they would die even more miserably when facing the barbarians. All of you, focus on your own cultivation. Don't make trouble out of nothing. Those who take the initiative to cause trouble are making things difficult for me. Chung Longphone. The peak of the five tribulations spoke. His prestige should be very high. The people around him responded one after another. Everyone found their own places to cultivate and chat. The female cultivators continued to wander among the group of powerful warriors. One of them threw Luli a few glances, but decided not to provoke him. Time passed quickly. Half a month had passed in the blink of an eye. Patron Cold Mountain had yet to return. This made many people's hearts sink. Could something have happened to him? Patron Cold Mountain could not die. During the past half a month, no barbarians came close. It seemed that the illusion here was strong. The barbarians could not see them. They were safe here. None of them dared to go out. They waited here. More people began to cultivate. This way, time would pass faster. Luli told Blood Fairy to keep an eye on the surroundings. He had completely immersed himself in studying the traces of the Great Path. These 3,000+ marks of the Grand Tao weaved into a strange net, and it formed an extremely profound and vast formation diagram. The more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path were connected to each other. Several traces of the Great Path formed small diagrams that were connected to each other. The large diagrams covered the small diagrams, and the large diagrams formed a super large one. The entire trace of the Great Path gave Luli the feeling that he could never see the whole picture. Now, there was a strange line in the diagram, a chain of order. This made the diagram even more enigmatic. Luli was not confident that he could master the trace of the Great Path. He had to explore bit by bit. Another 2 months had passed. Patron Cold Mountain had not come back yet. Many people were not in the mood to cultivate. The world could not be endless. Patron Cold Mountain was fast. 3 months was enough for him to go around several times. If it were not for the fact that something had happened, he would have come back a long time ago. Some people could not sit still anymore. Many gathered together to discuss countermeasures. Some suggested sending some people out to look for Patron Coal Mountain. Some suggested that everyone should go together. Some suggested waiting for a few more months. After all, it was safe here. In the end, the warriors of the Fifth Tribulation gathered together for a while. 3 of them decided to go out. They were at the later stage of the Fifth Tribulation and the peak of the Fifth Tribulation. They were fast and could protect themselves. But the defensive patterns here were activated. They did not know how to get out. They could not break down by force. Patron Coal Mountain did not tell them how to crack the patterns. Who knows about the patterns? Control them. Don't destroy them. Lou shouted. Luli opened his eyes. He thought about it and told Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy had studied the runes here thoroughly. She could control them easily. Buzzing. The pattern glowed. Luli said, "Okay, we can go out now." Many people were surprised. Luli did not do anything. How could he crack the patterns so easily? The 3 of them were skeptical and flew outside. Sure enough, they easily flew out. Buzzing. Luli told Blood Fairy to activate the patterns. He waved his hand and said, "Go back to cultivation. Let me know if you want to go out. Don't force your way out." With that said, Luli began to cultivate again. To others, he was even more enigmatic. Many people even wondered if Luli was a powerful warrior who was hiding his realm and abilities. One had to know that apart from the old devil, ordinary people didn't have much time to study divine inscriptions. Luli's skill in the study of patterns was extraordinary. Without doing anything, he could crack the patterns. It was as if he could summon clouds and rain. Whoosh! A female warrior came over and knelt down next to Luli. Her breasts were almost touching Luli's arm. She said with a grin, "Brother, are you tired? Do you want me to massage your shoulders?" Luli opened his eyes. Looking at the fawning face, he was not tempted at all. Instead, he felt disgusted. She was not a young girl. She must be thousands of years old. How could she call herself Sheer? She called a brother? This gave Luli goosebumps. "No, it's okay. Go and cultivate by yourself." Luli waved his hand. Seeing that the female cultivator was about to throw a tantrum, Luli pulled a long face and said coldly, "Do you not understand what I said? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.